The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one. Got a pride of a fallen night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I will be conducting you this evening Beyond the Veil. I am joined by my dear friend and special in-house guest, Mr. Brent Thomas of the Paranormal Portal. I don't know what we're going to get into tonight. We definitely do want to get into some of the topics you guys want to talk about, you guys and gals want to talk about in the chat rooms, both on Facebook and on YouTube as well. An exclusive for all of the YouTube and Facebook people out there. Why? Because we love you, and the interactions are just amazing, and we continue to break through barriers and barriers and barriers of gnosis. So, Mr. Brent Thomas of Paranormal Portal, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here.
Definitely, man. So, more experiences that you were having today, and I want to talk about those just briefly. A friend of mine came over, and she said she was playing VR with us the other day, and she's like, "Oh, they sent me to a whole nother world." And Brent kind of laughed, and he goes, "Yeah, they tend to do that to people."
Happens a lot around here.
Yeah, whether it's DMT or virtual reality or anything like that. So we were playing virtual reality, and we were playing the Paranormal Activity virtual reality. So, we were talking about at lunch, we were talking about The Matrix. We were talking about non-player characters. The waitress even got in on it a little bit, and she turned out to be an SJW though, so that was pretty funny. She was like, #me too, and I was like, yeah, #me too, and I totally agree with you. Awesome, yeah, you're totally on the level. But no, she had some pretty interesting ideas to talk about, so I want to get into that a little bit later in the broadcast. But the immersion into the virtual reality world is something that we were discussing during the during lunch, and then you actually played VR for about 2 hours. And not only did you play VR, but you played the Paranormal Activity VR, which I haven't played yet. I just downloaded it, so because the Paranormal Portal guy, obviously he's got to play the freaking Paranormal Activity VR game.
That's right.
So how did that feel?
It was really cool. I mean, it's such a work of art. I mean, the amount of detail that they have in the scenes. It takes a while to get used to the idea that you have to click something in your hand in order to operate a knob, and you have to, it's almost counterintuitive because you can see a hand and you can see a knob and you just think you just do that, but you have to make that deliberate connection in your mind to make the action happen, and so that separates you a little bit. But the atmospherics are great. The suspense is really cool. It's certainly.
Does it feel like entering another world?
Well, sure. It certainly is. I mean, it's very immersive. You have sound, you have visuals, you have atmospherics, you have objects, doing things in front of you. And so the experience is as immersive as it can be right now. I mean, it's certainly not.
Well, the technology is in its infancy for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible experience, and it was a lot of fun. The game is really it's a lot of problem solving is most of what it is, and that's really cool. Those are the kind of games I really enjoy playing because you have to use your mind and you have to use logic, and it was a great time. But yeah, really cool.
Now, did you get the creepy factor though?
No, not so much. Only when you came into the room and jumped at me every once in a while.
Did you really? Because I recorded that and I put the front-facing camera like this, and I said, guys, we got to be really, really quiet because Brent Thomas has been playing Paranormal Activity in VR. He's been yelling and talking shit to the ghosts the entire time. I think he thinks I'm still in the room with him. I don't know. And I've turned the camera around to start filming the rest of it, and I filmed the rest of it. I walked into the room. I scared the shit out of you. You gave me a reaction that was okay. I mean, it was, a reaction that was expected for a paranormal investigator. Not much of a reaction, because you have a tendency to like keep that kind of stuff within you. Like even no matter how freaked out you are in a situation, I mean, I try to not jump whenever there's something creepy going on. And in the virtual reality world, you didn't give me that much of a reaction. But internally, I mean, was it a little creepy at least?
A little bit. I mean, it was definitely a startle. So I give you a lot of credit for that, because I'm actually a very hard person to startle, so that you did get that. So nice job.
I have a technological advantage, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's true. That's true. It was really cool, though, and I think that, I mean, the experience, it's almost a metaphor for life, right? You know, I mean, really, it is, because you think about, in all of your shows, this is the Matrix, this is the AI and all of the NPCs and stuff, and then you put this helmet on, and you're playing a direct representation of that, and so it just makes you reflect on, you know, what if this is right now is I'm in virtual reality again, and it's level upon level upon level upon level of simulated realities, you know.
It is funny that you say that. Funny, odd. I was just about to say FOD because it's a conjunction of both words because I didn't know which one I wanted to pick. But it's funny and both odd at the same time that you would say that, because that was my feeling exactly. That as soon as I put the headset on, I felt the immersion, and that made this world feel that much more illusionary.
Right.
And for a while there, I was seeing like the screen door effect, you know, when you put the goggles on and you can see the pixels.
Yeah.
I was actually seeing the screen door effect in real life, and also the blue borders around things too. You know, the blue borders when you're getting too close to the wall. So I don't know if that was just the virtual reality stuff that I was bringing into my consciousness, or if that feeling of immersion actually allowed me to see further into the illusionary nature of reality.
Well, I think it must do something on a mental level, right? Where you're using an observation of a reality that you're not normally using, and so when you take that off and you get back to your normal reality, the quote unquote normal reality, you're still using that observational reality that you learned in the simulation, and so perhaps what you're experiencing is very, very real, and maybe you're looking at it, you know, from just a little off center, and that's what makes it, you know, viable and believable. You know, that you're experiencing something that is, you know, it's as real as when you take off the helmet or the eye visor and you're experiencing those, you know, artifacts in our reality. Maybe that's a direct reflection of the fact that you had the helmet on and your mind was working differently through that period, and then you brought that with you into your normal conscience.
That's a really good point. Let me ask you this. As far as paranormal activity and experiences, you've been investigating this your entire life, and I'm sure you've had several paranormal experiences yourself.
Yeah.
So were there any that genuinely creeped you out?
In the game?
No. In just in life.
Yeah, actually, my one of my most profound experiences was my ex-wife and I lived in a house, and it was a brand new house.
That'd be pretty scary.
It is on a whole different level, but that's currently not where I'm going with this anecdote. But I was. This house was brand new, so there wasn't any history to the land. There wasn't like, oh, these things had happened in this house years ago. So there wasn't a normal building history. It used to be just a lot. And I'm not sure if maybe there's some history dating back to the Native American times, and, you know, perhaps this was a sacred area of some kind or whatever, but it was a house built among other houses. And so there wasn't, you know, it was just right alongside of a highway. But this house was built, and we were the first ones to ever to occupy it. And we rented it, but right off the bat, we started hearing footsteps. And that's actually where I saw my first real orb. And I'm talking like not in a camera and this ambiguous light anomaly. I'm talking about I was sitting on the floor watching television, and a little ball of light went right in front of my eyes, you know, and floated by my face. And, you know, so there was activity going on in this house all the time. And the one time, and the ball of light didn't really freak me out. It was just like, well, wow, look at that. Should I touch it? Nah, probably not. I really don't understand what it is, and I don't want to piss it off. So I didn't. But the one time that I really did kind of get like, is when I came home from work one time, and I worked in
Wait, how'd you get?
I go,
Okay, I just want to make
just
sure.
the, you know, that feeling where you just want to rinse off. It's just like, wait, I can't process this. And what it was is, I got home from work, and I worked in a a factory at the time, and it was just ugly, smelly paint, stinky work. And you get home, and the first thing you want to do is just get clean. So
I was in the carpet cleaning industry for 10 years. I know exactly what you mean.
Right. Yeah. You just want to wash the day off of you. And it's emotional as much as physical. But anyway, I got home, and I was home long before my wife would have been home, and we didn't have any children or anything. So I got home, locked the house up. It was just her and I, no pets, no animals, anything. And locked the house up real good, and went and got in the shower. And I'm in the shower, and the one thing with this new home was always a problem in my mind is that whenever the shower was on, you couldn't flush a toilet, you couldn't wash dishes, you couldn't do anything because instantly the shower would go ice cold, and it just sucked. So I was home alone. I thought, cool, I'll have a nice long shower and it'll be great. And I got in the shower, I got all lathered up with soap, and suddenly the water just went ice cold. And I'm like, damn it. Oh, shoot. She must have got home and she started doing dishes. So I quick rinse off the soap with the cold water, and I'm freezing, I'm shivering. I shut off the water, and I'm locked in the bathroom, and I still hear water running. I'm like, what the hell is that? And so I'm standing there buck naked. I open the shower curtain, and the faucet is running full blast hot water. And and it turned on while I was in the shower. Now, I got the that feeling, because I don't know what it is, but somehow when you're naked you feel so much more vulnerable. I don't know if it's the psycho thing or what the hell it is, but not that clothes are going to offer you a whole lot of protection, but it just feels better. So there I was standing and knowing that I was naked in the bathroom and not alone. So that one freaked me out.
Jeffrey Seelman, the exorcist, that we've had on, you've had on, we had this energy in the house for a while, and I said, it doesn't really bother us, so it's no real big deal. And he's like, well, would you let a stranger come into your house and just watch everything? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, why would you let an energy do that? And I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty screwed up. Like, a lot of people are just like okay with these energies being around their house, but they don't realize like the perf factor going on here. Like, yeah, you can have a ghost that's like watching you naked in the shower.
Well, it was, in most cases, it doesn't bother me. I mean, like, I've been living around phenomenons throughout my life. I don't know. I seem to be a magnet for it or whatever, but in that instance, it was just, I felt so vulnerable. But I get what he's saying, and I don't disagree that, it's certainly one of those things. But most of the time, I really honestly believe that we're like swimming in a realm of many different dimensional entities, And so I don't know that it's possible ever to just make sure you're in your own vacuum. But I understand what he's saying, and I don't disagree that, yeah, it's kind of creepy. Someone just standing around, looking at your life going, oh, I used to be alive. I remember that. Yeah. That is creepy, and maybe that's something you'd want to get out. But at the same time, I wonder if you can really ever purge everything out. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because, you can purge out lower vibrations, such as negative entities and stuff like that. They can be purged by using different mediums, like whether it's sage or frankincense or, specific things like salt and oils. That can help to create a barrier that they don't want to be near. But higher vibrational entities, I'm not sure if you can keep them out or if they can just wander through and just check it out and move along. But they're not going to do you any harm either.
True.
Yeah.
The lady you just met, Tammy.
Yes.
Yeah, she was downstairs and something grabbed her, and she thought it was one of us, and we were both upstairs.
Oh.
And she asked, "Do you have a ghost in the house?" I said, "No." She said, I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why do you ask?" And she said, "Well, something grabbed me."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh crap!" And she goes, "It wasn't evil or anything like that, but it was." I could tell there was something trying to make its presence known.
Oh.
So I kind of go back and forth on the idea that this is an echo of something, because this thing will not freaking leave. Whatever it is in the basement is always there. We talked about this last time you were here. You told me to put salt down there, and I do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really bother us, but it will make its presence known every once in a while. It'll open a cabinet door, or it'll do something just to say, hey, I'm here. It has stood over me and yelled in my ear while I'm sleeping before. Like if I fall asleep downstairs on the couch, it's only done it once or twice, but I hear this, this. And then like you can see it out of the corner of your eye. Well, not even corner. It's like right when you first open your eyes and you're still in between the dream state and the awake state. Like I can catch a glimpse of this thing standing over me just yelling, but I wake up with a pounding headache. And it's like I said, it's only done it a couple of times, but I don't know. I can't, like, nobody can get rid of this thing. Even Jeffrey, he can't get rid of this thing. It's just here.
So you think it is the same thing that's in the basement? You don't think it's possible that you have more than one thing going on?
I never thought about that.
Yeah,
I just figured it was all one and the same.
because you didn't, when you laid down the salt, did you notice an improvement in the conditions in the house?
I did, yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
so I would think that the salt barrier is holding and that's working. I mean, it's a good idea to replenish it every once in a while, just for the record. But I think it's possible that you may have more than one thing going on in the house. And so the one thing is stuck downstairs, but that doesn't mean there isn't something else up here.
Everything's pretty clear upstairs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So-
it's got a good vibe. The house doesn't have a bad vibe at all. But
Except the basement. You've been to the basement, right?
yeah, it was once when I think just after you moved in, very soon after you got here. Yeah.
Try going down there and turning off all the lights. It's freaking creepy. Like we have this. We used to have a green screen set up downstairs where the VR room is, and we have these big studio lights, and we have those on 24 hours a day downstairs in the basement. Like in case the regular lights go out, we have those as backup.
Wow.
Because Cherie will not go down there without having it lit. Yeah, I went down there to go flip breakers and stuff, and I had to sit there in the complete pitch dark. I mean, even for like 2 seconds, freaked me the hell out.
So you feel like you're being watched? Is that what you're noticing, or is it just a vibe? Or what?
No, it's a being watched from
Okay.
the area of that little cold cellar.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
part where I do not go.
Yep.
And people are like, "Why don't you fire up the furnace? You know, it's a lot more efficient than the heaters." And I'm like, "It's not. That's its area of the house. I'm not going down there."
Huh. Okay, I got you.
Mhm.
Well, I think that it's certainly what I'd like to do sometime is to set up some equipment and just see if we can get some readings. Bring over some EMF detectors, leave out a little micro cassette recorder, and just leave it run for a night or two, and just see if we can catch some things.
That would be cool.
Okay.
The one thing that would creep me the hell out though is like ghost kids.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's just something really, really extra creepy about that. And if it turns out to be like a kid, then that'll just make me pack up and leave.
Okay, I got a real theory about this, and here's my theory in long form. All right, if there's anything just and good in the universe, and I believe there is, I really do. I think that there's a goodness that's, kind of, I don't know if I want to say it's a deity kind of thing, but it's a force, it's a creative force or whatever. And maybe we're directly a part of that as creators ourselves, as we were talking about earlier. But if there's anything just and good in the universe, then when a child dies, it's not left to wander. Something brings it home. Something brings it back to whatever that goodness is, because a child is not corrupt. It's not become corrupted or broken or bent or screwed up by the world. It's a life in its purest form in my mind. And so I really believe that children are brought home. If I'm going to have any faith in this universe at all, then I have to believe that those pure, gentle beings are not left to wander. And so if that's the case, then whether there are or are not children spirits, I've had this debate with psychics before, and I'm pretty convinced that I'm on the right path with this. But when people experience these children, I don't think they're experiencing children at all, because we as adults, I think, are absolutely conditioned, at least if you're normal, if you're a decent person, if you're normal, and especially if you have children, we're conditioned to help children. I mean, it's part of what we are. And as soon as we see a child in distress, normal people open up and go, wait, how can I help? How can I help this child? And so it's an opening. And so if I was a dark entity wanting to lower somebody's defenses and open them up to me, I would appear like a child, because automatically that's going to make a person surrender to an extent and open their hearts to this being.
That's a good point.
That's my theory.
Unless they have black eyes.
Well, yeah, black guy.
Those are the ones you got to watch out for.
But even then, okay, so they appear like children, and people are like, oh, you poor child, what are you doing out in the cold? And they want to let them in. And it's not until that feeling of dread comes over these people dealing with black-eyed kids that they go, oh, wait, this isn't right. Their initial response is, come here, let me make it better, And as soon as you let a black-eyed kid in is when you have hell to pay. You've got lots of problems at that point.
So is that what happens? They appear and ask for help?
Yeah.
And then you let them into your house, and once they're in?
So there's several different accounts of black-eyed children. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with it, black-eyed children is a phenomenon where people encounter these children, and they can be in, just unbelievable places, like the middle of a dark road somewhere, or they can appear at your doorstep at like 2 a.m. or, whatever. And so they'll knock and ring the doorbell. They've appeared in an apartment complex. It's like, wherever they appear. And so there's these knocks on the doors, and essentially the children go, I'm lost. Can you let me come in? And I need to call my mommy to come pick me up. And people see that, and of course they want to let them in. But usually what happens then is that people have this horrible sense of dread, this primal instinct to get away from whatever this is. And so if the idea is, if you let them in, then people have experienced suddenly becoming unconscious, getting these necrotic sores on their bodies and weird infections. And some people have allegedly died from encounters with black-eyed kids. And so what makes them so absolutely terrifying is that they do appear like children. And so again, it's another one of those situations where we see a child, we want to help a child. I mean, it's just part of normal psychology. And so they appear as something that automatically makes us lower our defenses. And so most people, when they encounter them, that I've heard of, and I suppose there are many you don't hear of, but they automatically seem to have this primal instinct, though, like, no, I don't want to open it. But then the child will apparently become demanding. Come on, let us in. Come on, let us in. We need to come in now. Open the door. Open the door. We need to use your phone. And then people have to become really forceful and then finally shut the door and get away. But yeah, a real strange phenomenon. Now there's some people saying out there that are debunking this or trying to debunk it, saying it's a bunch of malarkey. And I've not encountered one, so I can't say either way, but I'm just telling you what I've researched on the subject. So
Interesting.
very creepy, though.
I've got some up on the screen, and I wouldn't let those kids into the house. Like, it's just the black eye is just a dead giveaway. Like, no, do not let this thing into the house. But if it persists and persists and persists, what do you do?
Yeah, close the door.
Close the door.
Close the door. Go away from the door. Leave it alone. Yeah, you don't want to play with black-eyed kids. They're pretty nasty things.
I'm getting a message from Rashnish, who's saying, I have a suggestion. Instead of using salt, use Epsom salt. I recommend mugwort. Chanting and cleaning the place will alleviate natural tension. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that there are certain natural elements that definitely will resonate and help you in these endeavors. And I think he's right. I mean, I didn't know about mugwort specifically, but that's a great suggestion. Now, I would suggest that chanting is very powerful, but no matter what you do, you have to invest your belief in it. You have to believe in the ritual you're doing. So in other words, I could sing the Scooby-Doo song. And if I believed in my heart of hearts that Scooby-Doo song was going to chase away negative spirits, it would, because it's empowered with my faith, with my belief. And so therefore, an empty chant would mean nothing. It's just a sound vibration, but it's the heart of the person that creates the power, and the faith of the person that creates the power. So whatever the ritual you choose to use, just believe in it with all of your heart that it's going to work, and that will empower it to work. But I do believe he's right about there are several natural elements that can work in concert with that intention, because energy follows intention is my belief, that we as creators, we intend for something to happen. Then on some, even some rudimentary form, our energy is going to manifest that creation. And it depends on the amount of belief in the person and how poignant that's going to be. So in other words, for an atheist to grab a Bible and start reading biblical verses to push a demon out of their house, it's not going to do them any good. But you take a very devout priest and have him read that same section, and suddenly it's a magical power. So
that's a pretty good point. I mean, it all comes down at the end of the day to intention, and the code or program that you're putting out into the matrix, the way that you're changing the matrix. I look at everything from a computer code perspective, and these negative energies are essentially viruses or bad code that have been released into the matrix, probably manifested by the AI, but that's like whole different levels here. But there are negative code out there and negative entities and so on and so forth. And if you don't really have that intention to get rid of it, it's never going to go away. I find that to be a problem. I was clearing people for a while, and I would get rid of their attachments and, all the negative code that was around them, but they really didn't want to let it go.
Oh, yeah.
They enjoyed having it. It was maybe, felt comfortable, or it was certain behavioral patterns or traits or something like that that they would keep on doing. And eventually they would come back, and then they would call me up and say, hey, can you do it again? And I'm like, no, I just exerted a whole shitload of energy, got myself all infected in the process. This is an easy thing to do. It's difficult. And, I don't mind helping somebody, but you can't just go undo all the work that I did. And that's that. So, what do you liken that to what do you liken that phenomenon to? What would you say is the reason why people get so attached to these attachments sometimes?
Well, I think that some people, to become subject to an attachment, you have to have a hole in yourself somewhere, right? You have to have something you're missing. You're not a completely realized person. Usually, you might be going through some traumatic personal turmoil that's created a gap in your life, or some kind of weakness that's allowed these things to attach. And so, we all carry our baggage. We all carry our luggage, and negative entities are incredibly adept at, attrition. They fight these wars of attrition with all of us, at some point or another, and especially those of us that are involved in the field. And they try to wear you down. They try to break you down slowly along. It doesn't matter, because time is really irrelevant to them. They'll spend 15 years at it if they want you bad enough. They'll spend a lifetime at you if they want you bad enough. But these people that fall in love with it, it's almost to a point of possession at that point, then, though, when they value that attachment, that they feel empowered by it and they feel more completed by it. And some people are just really, attracted to the darkness. And not that there's, much you can do about that, but you certainly can't remove an attachment for somebody. If they don't want to get rid of it, it's going to stay attached.
On the conscious level, sometimes they do, but then subconsciously you realize that they don't. But you know what? You said it's people that dwell in the darkness or like the darkness. I would say it goes the other way too, though. If you really look at exorcism and things and demonic possession, it usually happens to really, really, really religious people.
Well,
and I think it's their belief in it, and their belief that they're so weak, their belief in all that allows these energies to attach. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I certainly believe that the devil has a reality because we've chosen to believe in it, or some of us has chosen to believe in it, and we as creators, of course, anything that we choose to believe has a reality, and so it gets into a real muddy waters, because you're playing with people's paradigms at this point. It's like, if there's good, there has to be evil. If there's light, there has to be dark. If there's this whole duality idea that we're subscribed to in this world. And I don't think that it's intrinsically, bad to have those ideas, but we do create those things. And I kind of forgot where I was going with this train of thought. Wow. It just zapped from my head.
Interesting. So on that note, let's take a quick break. And since we talked about the devil, I'll go ahead and play a little tune by the devil here. We'll be right back.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness, and bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together, and that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise, follow your conductors, and fear no danger, as you step beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump back into it now that we've been able to detach ourselves from that horrible satanic energy. But if there's any proof that the devil does exist, there it is right there.
There you go.
And yeah, I don't want to get political tonight, but I think she's going to hang here pretty soon, and that will be something to see. That will be a sight to see for sure. But back to the paranormal topic, and you mentioned something earlier in the last segment, and also at lunch too, that our belief in the devil actually makes it so. Mm-hmm. Let me take it a step further and say that we have two types of consciousness, as most people are familiar, most of our listeners, organic consciousness and NPC consciousness. NPCs are just kind of containers, and they do have, in my opinion, a certain level of consciousness, and they have a level of sentience too, but it's not an organic consciousness, and it's an artificial connected to the hive mind consciousness. However, they're freaked out over demonic possession. Like, I hear a lot of them freaking out about CERN opening up portals and letting demons in and taking over their bodies. And there's like people that like legitimately live in fear 24 hours a day, thinking they're going to get possessed by some kind of demon. And I wonder if that is actually more of a possibility for a non-player character as opposed to an organic consciousness. Organic consciousness can't be taken over, especially when it understands who it is and what it is. A non-player character, on the other hand, is a vessel that can be hijacked at any given time. And I would go so far as to say, perhaps me as organic consciousness, the consciousness speaking to you right now, is actually a walk-in that walked into this non-player character body, because I think maybe there was a non-player character at some point in time, and I walked into this body and kind of hijacked it. So on that note, there could be equally, there could be energies that are equally as intentive, but the opposite direction, rather than being a benevolent and coming in here with an intention, coming in here with a malevolent intention and hijacking these non-player characters. What do you think?
Well, I think that certainly in the case of a realized consciousness, any person that is in a realized state of their consciousness, in other words, they realize the power and the ability that they have intrinsic to being alive and as their birthright. I think that in those cases, they probably don't have a lot to worry about in terms of possession or oppression or things of that nature. However, no matter the conscious type, I would say that if it's an unrealized consciousness, then they believe they're vulnerable. It's in the idea of the vulnerability, and if you look at it in terms of what you're saying about NPCs versus organic consciousness, which would be more attractive for a demon to gain control of? I would say the organic consciousness would be the better prize, and so I think that they'll try to grab onto whatever consciousness they can, and it depends on what they're after, whether they just want to drain the person, and do they feed off of that energy, that life force, that spark, or do they want to take over the body to live again and to impress upon the world their own desires? I don't know. But I think it's any consciousness that's not realized and not recognized in themselves, that it's not anybody that's in a state of flux or in a state of uncertainty. I think that is an imbalance, and I think we all kind of go back and forth in that. Like, there are some days that I am absolutely sure who I am and what I'm doing, and there are other days that I'm like, oh my God, who am I and what the hell am I doing? I think that we all have a biorhythm, so to speak. And as such, like, I would love to say that I can operate at perfect awareness all of the time, but I just simply can't. I know that I have the ability to tap into a level of myself that feels like it's more aware and awake. And then I have the ability to be an idiot too, and just, fumble through life just like everybody else. So, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I totally relate to that. Like, there's times when I find myself and I'm doing something, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? It doesn't, I think it's just the nature of being in an organic container that,
right.
You've got to get down there and you've got to grab that organic and raw consciousness element of yourself. But because of being in an organic container, it's constantly like just pulling back and forth. I mean, trying to grab it and then you let go of it. And I mean, it's a constant thing. So I don't think anybody can operate from that true raw consciousness element of themselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we're inside of the freaking machine itself.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. And as long as
Yeah,
we're still
and let
involved.
me add this to it. I don't mean to
Please.
cut you off. Expecting yourself to is, I think, detrimental to your consciousness, because then you're constantly living in a state of disappointment in yourself,
Mm.
as opposed to just understanding the way the game's being played and understand, okay, well, this is a game, a constant struggle back and forth. I'm not expected to live in the higher frequency 24 hours a day. I'm not expected to. I'm expected to pick myself up every time I fall. That's the only thing that I'm expected to do.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly this is a place where we're all learning. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to ever, you know, piss on anybody's paradigm. And I don't pretend that I can't learn. You know, as I'm speaking from my experience, from my knowledge, and my belief system. And so I don't ever mean to impress upon any of you listening that, geez, I've been doing it all wrong. I have to do it this way. I'm just learning too. I'm just figuring a lot of this stuff out, because with anything, especially the paranormal, there are no experts. There are no people that just have it all dialed in. There are, because in order to have experts, and there are a lot of people that proclaim themselves paranormal experts and experts on the paranormal, but there is no such thing, because this is not a field of study that is open to scientific conditions. We can't state when something is going to happen. We can't set up the equipment to make sure we catch an anomaly, because and repeatedly so that we can understand its complete nature and what it does and why it's doing it. I mean, they're just not observable on that level. There are experts in theories or of ideas or hypotheses, and maybe they're well researched in that. But I don't pretend to be an expert. I don't think one exists. But I just wanted to put that out there as as a little bit of a disclaimer, because sometimes I speak and I'm saying, well, this is this and this and this. Well, I'm speaking from my experience, so please don't ever take offense at that, because it's not about me trying to tell you how to think about the paranormal.
I've gone back and forth about the paranormal because as you know, I'm really into the AI and understanding the structure like this. And then after the revelations of staring at this AI, I realized that all of these negative energies essentially are tentacles of this artificial intelligence, or manifestations of the artificial intelligence. But then as I get deeper into this, I wonder, because we do have a multi-layered matrix that we live in. There's a multi-dimensional, that's a better word. So there are fourth, fifth, sixth densities, seven densities, et cetera, et cetera. And my focus is what exists outside of this entire matrix structure in and of itself. But I wonder if there could be these AI manifestations, or a dimension that is 100% what we would consider negative, and that's where you have your demons and hell experiences, et cetera, et cetera. As far as demons go, your thoughts on that? Like, where do they come from?
I don't know. I know we've all heard the mythos and mythology of them perhaps having been fallen angels, of them having existed prior to human beings, and perhaps having a whole many different origins, whether they're demons or jinn, or whatever terms you choose to describe them as, elementals, shadow people. There's so many different negative entities that I think the term demon, for one, gets overused, because I don't think every negative entity is a demon, but a lot of people like to throw that label at things, and so it almost gives this idea of this omniscient sense of evil. I just think there's a lot of things out there that like to screw with people, but where did they come from? I don't know. I don't know that anybody could possibly answer that, and I don't mean to negate the importance of the question. I just wish I knew. I can't speak with any authority where they come from, but I can tell you I've heard the stories, and I don't know whether they're legitimate or not.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with this Hat Man?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm very familiar with that.
I was just watching last night top 10 creepiest recordings caught on tape, and it was a kid, of course, and she was talking about the Hat Man that was coming and seeing her at night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's creepy. And then they showed the picture of the Hat Man and everything like that. So what is this thing? Can you give us any context?
Well, it does seem to target children, and the reason that I'm familiar with it, and this goes kind of way out there, and I'm being a little autobiographical, but I went through a period of my life where I was tormented by this thing. And it was during my teen years, and kept having nightmares, and this thing was appearing, and just as lucid and real as I could possibly imagine, but this thing was there. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get away from it. It would just, I could lucidly make choices in my dreaming state that I could fly. And I would fly at like the speed of light to a whole different place. And no matter what happened when I got there, it would be there. I could climb walls, and I would go on top of buildings, and it would be there. And it would say, you can't get away from me. You are mine. And it was absolutely terrifying. And then suddenly one day it just kind of stopped. And I don't know if it was a mark of puberty or what, I don't know, but it just kind of stopped. I quit having dreams of the Hat Man. Now, the scary part is that both of my older children have reported to me in their teen years that they were having nightmares with this man with a hat. So it seems to have affected them in some way as well. What it is, I don't know. There are lots of ideas that it's a kind of shadow person, but it's also, it appears somewhat like what you got on the screen there. Some people say it looks more like less like a big collar behind it, but more like a old time duster jacket that the cowboys would wear. And also glowing red eyes are real common in the reports of the Hat Man. But it does seem to be negative, although, it's not always relegated to dreams. It's commonly reported in nightmares, but people also commonly report coming out of the nightmares and seeing it at the foot of their bed or in their bedroom staring at them. So I don't know. I think it certainly seems to have some form of realism, but what it is, I don't know. Yeah, there's another great representation of what the Hat Man would look like, but I don't know.
Well, several people in the chat are saying that they've seen the Hat Man. Caitlin says that, or Cataline says that she saw it, and somebody else said they've had one paranormal experience, and it was with the Hat Man.
Wow. Now, were these experiences in an awake state, or were they in dream states?
I don't know. That's a good
Okay.
question. So we'll see.
Yeah, if you guys could respond and let me know, I'd be very curious about that. But it definitely seems to be a phenomenon in and of itself. And I don't know that it's directly related to any other phenomenon or if it's its own thing. I don't know, but it's widely reported. This is not a small scale phenomenon by any means.
Sleep paralysis is what they're saying in the chat.
God, yes.
So
and actually, I suffered from sleep paralysis in my 30s, just out of the blue. Suddenly, I had sleep paralysis and would swear there was someone there, like sucking on my life force. I couldn't move, could just breathe. It was like being stuck. And whether it's sleep paralysis or what, I don't know. The old hag phenomenon is where the whole modern day version of sleep paralysis comes from. And it was the idea that there was an old hag, a spiritual old woman that would paralyze people in their sleep and kind of between the sleep and awake state. And she would draw from their life force. And I went through a whole period of dealing with that. And it took me years, but I learned how to wake myself out of it, because I'd be stuck there and it would take, it seemed like hours to get out of it. Or, it probably wasn't, but you know how it is whenever you're just struggling and you're getting frantic. It seems like time takes forever. But I did finally learn to get out of it. And after I learned that, I don't suffer from it anymore. So another phenomenon. Yeah, the old hag. There you go. Yep.
I saw this one time when I was living in Colorado.
You did?
And again, it was another thing that was standing over me, yelling in my freaking ear. Like, I don't know why they like to yell at me while I'm sleeping, but this one was like a screeching yell. And I called into Clyde Lewis and talked to Clyde, and he said that it sounds like a banshee.
Oh, well, if it was a banshee, then the idea is that, hearing the banshees scream is an omen of death. So good thing it wasn't. Or was it?
No, that's what he said too.
Yeah.
And there was no death that followed.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
On
I'm
wood.
glad that it, but no, actually, you know what? My dog died shortly after.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. So there you go. I never made that connection until just now.
Yeah. Yeah. The banshees are usually omens of an oncoming death. So that's horrible. I'm sorry you had that experience.
Oh, well, I'm not sorry I had it. I'm kind of glad I did so I can talk about it. It makes the show more interesting.
That's true. But no, I know that these kind of experiences around beds, I don't know what it is about our sleep state, whether we're so much more vulnerable at that point, and that's why these things move in and do what they do, and why they do it, I don't know. It's just, it's of course open to theory and interpretation, but I don't think anybody can say for sure what do they get from us in these states. But a lot of times people that are in these states, a lot of times they say that the old hag would prey mostly on old people. Oh, Jesus. I saw this video. That woman, I don't know what the hell was going on. She's sitting there on her phone, and suddenly she just flips out. It's like she instantly becomes possessed, and she just starts attacking a guy that's sitting next to her. And then, and then finally he stands up and starts, defending himself and going after her. And then the cops come and take him down. But I think it was from the New York subway.
I have actually the video right here.
Oh, okay. Well,
so we can go over this real quick.
Really, really creepy. Just look at her face. She's struggling with something suddenly.
Here in Toronto, you see
don't do that to us. We don't want to see you.
Oh, see, she like whipped off her crucifix or something there.
All right.
Did you see
I
that?
want to hear you talk. Huh?
It's like she ripped off her crucifix at that point.
I did not notice that. Let me see if I can find a video that actually shows the video and not some bimbo interrupting it every 5 seconds.
Watch her rip off her necklace. And I would suspect it's some kind of religious icon for her that gives her comfort and peace. And there it goes. It's pulling on it. Wants it off.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. It's still on.
What is that?
I don't know. I'd love to get a zoomed in shot of that, though.
Central Station.
There it goes. Boom, gone.
God, she looks like one of my ex-girlfriends. That would explain a lot from that relationship. Oh, man.
She acts like one of my exes.
So now she's just back to normal, just texting.
Right. She got the necklace off. And then look at, it's just like some kind of switch got tripped in her. It's just creepy.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've seen that behavior before.
Whoa. Chill. Whoa. Shit.
I've got to give him a lot of credit. He's just kind of sitting there going, all right.
Hey. She's probably fucking possessed. No, she's probably just...
What the fuck you doing? What the fuck you doing, man? I didn't tell you.
Yeah,
Call,
get the
fuck,
mess.
yo. Call emergency shit, dog.
Hey, stop! Oh my God.
Yep, there's the transit
Nah,
car.
I'm clear of that bullshit.
Sit down. Everyone sit down.
What the
Yeah, they're saying in the
fuck?
chat room her eyes changed.
Yeah, it was really creepy.
Possessed, no, she's...
Horrible. Horrible.
Whoa.
Just boom, slams his head.
Wow.
Whoa.
Terrible stuff.
That is. I'd still hit it, though. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I don't know what to say to that.
Hopefully Cherie won't watch this later. So yeah, what do you think causes that phenomenon?
I don't know. It would be hard to say where she picked that up at, but it does. I mean, I don't know. I can't say for sure that it's a possession, but my God, she made sure to whip off that necklace. And that to me was the first big indicator that it wasn't just a chemical or a mental health issue, that she needed to get rid of that icon, whatever that was important to that girl. And she wore it, for some reason. And so it needed to get that off of her first, and I suppose that creates a barrier, right? When you have faith in something, it creates a barrier, and so it removed that, and boom, it was game over then. So I don't know. I wonder. It's anybody's guess where you can get those things, but I'll tell you that there's many beliefs in the paranormal community that some of the best places to pick up an attachment is in the hospital and in bars. That those two places are where people tend to be most susceptible to becoming possessed or having some kind of an oppression or attachment.
Hospitals and bars.
Yep.
I was just thinking that when you mix your energy, and I was just joking about I'd hit it because I wouldn't mix my energy with something like that. But on a serious note, like when you mix your energy with all kinds of people, you don't know what kind of energies that they're carrying. Then you mix your energy and you get that energy as well. I've never seen it be as pronounced as to actually take over somebody like this, not in front of me.
Right.
But my mother did tell me a story when I was a kid, and you tell me your thoughts on this. I've never shared this story before, but we knew this lady, and my mother swore she was possessed, and she thought she was possessed as well.
Oh.
And I actually went with them to the exorcism. I didn't watch the exorcism. I rode in the back seat as we were driving this lady to the church to be exorcised. And she told me that there was a situation where they tried to get an exorcist to go to her house, and I wasn't there during this, but he went to her house, started doing the blessing, and as he was doing the blessing, a hand came out of the closet, slapped him in the face, and attacked him. And the priest left, like he would not go do the exorcism at the house.
Right.
And so that's why we were taking her to the church. But I've never heard of another phenomenon like that where a hand would physically manifest itself. And she said it was like a hairy hand with claws that came out of the closet and grabbed this guy and smacked him in the face.
Wow.
So have you heard of anything similar? Like, I don't know. I'm still trying to gauge that story. Like, I remember listening to it and thinking, Mom, you're a little bit out there. But considering the stuff we talk about beyond the veil now, that's like nothing.
That's like the kiddie pool.
Right. Little did I know.
There's so many accounts of spirits, just spirits being able to have full body manifestations. In other words, they have appeared in front of so many people as if they were standing right there. And so they can manifest on a physical level very short periods of time. And so if a spirit can do that, and a demon, of course, is supposed to have so much more spiritual power than a normal spirit, then I don't see why it wouldn't be possible at all. If human beings can pass on and then re-manifest for a period of time in front of people that they knew and loved, and maybe tell them goodbye or whatever, then I can't imagine that it'd be unheard of for a demon to have the same ability. So it makes sense to me.
My mother was really big on that. Like, I couldn't even say the devil in Greek. Like in Greek, there's many different ways to say the devil in many different contexts. Like, you're of the devil, go to the devil. Instead of saying go to hell, you say, oh, the devil. There's so like many different ways you say it. And you don't actually mean it physically, but it's just kind of an expression.
Right.
And we would always use that expression. And my mother would say, don't say that name. And then she would do like a little like cross and stuff. And yeah, she was like really serious. Like, you don't even say the devil's name.
Sure. Well, I mean, you think about it in the most basic forms. Okay, the time that we manifest, what our manifestation process is first we have a thought, and then we vibrate the thought into reality with words. And so suddenly this thought is manifest physically into the world, after which point it can be manifest in reality, right? And so by uttering a word, I mean, do I think that would summon a demon or an evil? No, but there is a strong belief in the demonologist community that naming a demon, its specific name, by naming it, you're summoning it to you on some level. And so, perhaps that's the same ideology behind that. So by vibrating its name, you're creating a calling card that it can come to you. And so a lot of demonologists won't name demons out loud because they don't want to summon them to them,
We had Michelle Bellinger on a while back, and I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah.
author. Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the Dictionary of Demons in the bedroom on top of that, right next to where we sleep. And we went through all the names, so maybe that explains a lot of what's going on now. They're like, oh, hey, you called? But I can tell you this, if I was a high-powered demon, I would not just show up whenever some asshole said my name. Like, I don't see that. Like, I see all these guys like into black magic, and we've had black magicians on the show before, and I've talked to them, and they think they can invoke all these demons and make them do their bidding. And I'm like, if these are like high-powered demons, they're not going to answer some dude doing meth in his basement while he's trying to freaking in a little circle lighting freaking candles. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No. And what would the value be for the demon at that point? It's like,
Right.
geez, love to have that soul.
Right, exactly, exactly.
It's like the moped or the Ferrari. I mean, which one are you going to go after, right?
Yes, but they do, though. They do go into the vessels of people that do these type of drugs. We were actually just talking about this again on the way back from lunch.
Yeah.
We have a big meth head problem here. And, I've been calling them meth heads, and everybody's been telling me, like, look, this is not politically correct. It's very, very offensive to call them meth heads. You need to start referring to them as Mexican Americans. So Mexican Americans is the proper terminology. So we have a lot of Mexican Americans in the vicinity, but they look like they're freaking demon possessed. And I don't know if it's the drug or an actual entity. I think it's a negative energy. What do you think?
I think that it probably has a consciousness of some kind. I mean, I know that people's personalities that are addicted to substances, the change is so absolutely profound in them that it's hard to believe that it wouldn't be akin to being possessed. And I certainly believe that those things can very easily go hand in hand, right? So when you do a chemical, and it's the man-made chemicals, not the natural substances, but the man-made stuff that has no resonance and energy, you're damaging your energy field. And so as such, your aura diminishes and you become weaker. And certainly, when you look at those people, you can tell they're like the shell of a person, And so, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that if it doesn't have its own sentience, quote unquote, on some fundamental, maybe hard to understand level, then at the very least, it's certainly a gateway for those things to enter.
Everybody's cracking up in the chat room over Mexican Americans. We don't want to offend the SJWs. We want to keep the show well balanced and politically correct.
We'll just offend everybody.
Right.
We're equal opportunity offenders up in here.
Well, I can tell you the most difficult time in my life is when I was doing a lot of street substances.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was also playing with Ouija boards and doing things like that. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had no sense of who I was. I had no idea that I was even organic consciousness. I had no idea between the difference between organic and NPC, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And I think that this was prior to the time that I actually walked into this body, like the consciousness now that's sitting here talking right now. Mm-hmm. Prior to the time that it walked into the body. But obviously I have the memories of this body for this entire life. Mm-hmm. But during this time, I could see how I was, at such a weak energetic state.
Right.
And then there was something alluring to the supernatural and the Ouija board. And I mean, I never had any dark intentions, so I wasn't trying to summon demons for dark intentions, et cetera, but I was very, very, very interested in the spiritual realm, which is kind of weird how both kind of go hand in hand. You weaken yourself to a certain point by these substances, and I would go as far as to say is like meth is a digital type of chemical that you put into your body, and it really changes your program more than anything else. But a lot of these people who are in these very, very heavy drug states are naturally inclined towards the darkness.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you think about it, okay, so when you were at that point where you were getting involved in the chemicals and stuff, you probably had a lot of holes in you, just a lot of confusion in your life, not a lot of sense of identity, or, you weren't very actualized as a person. Would I be correct?
Actualized as a person, as in...
Well, I mean, like you had a lot of, you felt like you had a lot of holes in you, and you were trying to...
Oh, I didn't know who the hell I was.
Right. So
yeah, I was in shambles at the time.
So you're trying to, and this is what I think is that people that are gravitating towards the street drugs, the man-made drugs, are the ones that are trying to fill something inside of themselves. And so they look for these things that are going to make them feel more whole, more complete, more something, because they're missing something. So they just jam all the shit inside of them. And then the people that are together and are on a journey for progression and are looking up, they resonate towards the natural substances, things that are going to raise the consciousness. So it's like this inverse relationship. It's like the chemical crap and soup is for the people that are desperately trying to complete themselves, to add some value to who they are. And so they fill themselves up with this, they weaken themselves. It has the absolute opposite effect. Of course, it doesn't do anything to bring them more actualization or realization, or even, it's just this band-aid to put on their soul, to feel better for a while, maybe stop the pain for a while, and at that point, you're looking at a psyche that wants desperately to have control of a very confusing world. And so how do you establish control in a confusing world? You look for places to acquire that power. And so that's where the occult can be attractive. And, the things like the Ouija and, getting into mysticism and other things. And I have nothing against any of the occult practices. I think that, if you enter into them with the right idea and the right mindset, then it's fine. It's just another journey. It's another path. But there are people that twist that and pervert it and make it ugly and dark and horrible. And so I think that that's the difference. But those people that are on the spiritual journey and stuff, and on the realization of the self, they're going to find the substances that exist to help them expand the consciousness. And so that's where things like ayahuasca and DMT become tools, and they become aids to help you clear the world away and put down the dividers and get it's like a cheat code, like I was saying last time, a cheat code to look a few levels ahead and see what's coming,
That's true. That's true. God, there's so many different ways to go with this. Well, no, I was going to mention, I was just having this debate in a group on Facebook, Acid Math, and it's supposed to be a psychedelics place where people talk about psychedelics and chill and hang out with each other and they, consciousness elevating stuff. And all these meth heads and heroin addicts came into the forum, and I was reading posts on like, what's better, heroin or fentanyl? And I'm like, I got tired of telling people how horrible it is for the 1,000th time. And I finally posted a thing and I'm like, look, we need to get rid of all this. This is not what this group is about. And there were so many people that jumped up and were like, no, it's free speech. It's free speech. And I'm like, you're going to defend your freaking heroin use and your meth use like that? That's just, it was insane. But no, you're absolutely right. It was bringing the frequency down so much that I couldn't even scroll through these and go to the, content that I was there for. Right. I just said, you know what? I can't do this. I had to wash my hands of it and just leave that energy behind. Right. I didn't want to divert the show into that direction though. I wanted to stick back to the idea of Ouija boards because when I was going through all of this, and this was in my teenage years, like 14 to 18 years old, 19 years old, around that time. During this time, you're right, life was all completely upside down. But I always thought that the Ouija board itself was evil. And now I laugh at a Ouija. Like we can sit down and open up a Ouija board right now, no problems at all. I have no hangups about doing that at all because I understand who I am. I understand the power that I have within myself, et cetera, et cetera. Back then I had no idea. But what happened is I put the Ouija board down and never picked it up again up until I was about 23, 24, maybe a little bit later. I don't remember exactly when. But I had this dream, and I don't think I've ever told anybody about this. So I was just all of a sudden in this like occult bookstore, and it was red all over and there was like black smoke and things like that. I walk up to the counter and the guy looks at me and he says, they've been wanting to talk to you. No, you know what? I remember this was like 2007. Yeah, okay. This was way later in life. So, because I'm remembering now when we used the Ouija board right after that. So he said, they've been wanting to talk to you and they've been waiting for you. And he handed me this like old fashioned, like carved wooden Ouija board that looked like, the moon and the sun were burned in there, like really beautiful Ouija board. And he's like, here. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. So we started playing with the Ouija board a little bit after that. And I can tell you about the experience that we were having during that particular session. But what are your thoughts on dreams like that? Like I did not have Ouija board in my consciousness. I wasn't listening to paranormal or anything like that. I was outside of that frequency completely. And something external came and said, come back into the frequency.
Right. I think that certainly messages are given to us in many different ways, and of course the Ouija is an oracle, and a lot of people say, oh, it's made by Parker Brothers, it's just it's a kid's toy, but it's really not. I mean, the Ouija has been around for centuries. Don't fool yourself just because Parker Brothers makes them that they invented them. It's been around for a long time. Excuse me. But I think that as in using any oracle, what it truly does, and the Ouija makes you a channel, so to speak. You're kind of a blind channel when you're using it, but you are channeling. And so I think that's why you probably drifted away from it, is just that you didn't need that as much anymore to make that connection, because you were making it within you, that you were resonating higher, and you had a more deep understanding of yourself and your own spirituality. So you didn't need to have that intermediary device, but maybe perhaps they were calling to say, hey, we got something to tell you, but it's not getting through the normal way. Why don't you pick it up again? I don't know. What happened when you did use it again?
Somebody asked me if I've ever played it alone. So I do want to touch upon that, because yeah, I have no problems with playing it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And again, only because I know who I am, etc. But so in this particular case, we were living in this house, and so I turned to my then girlfriend at the time, and I said, "Hey, let's play on the Ouija." And she's like, "Oh my God, this was like a Greek Orthodox girl. This is the girl that Mom always wanted me to have. This type of girl."
Sure.
And it's a standard textbook definition of an NPC relationship based on culture. I'm the complete opposite of what really needed to be done and what's going on now. But so she's like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I convinced her to sit down and play on the Ouija with me.
Mm-hmm.
So we started speaking to all of these different entities, and there was this little girl, and there was this supposedly little girl, because that's what she claimed to be, a 9-year-old girl. There was another one that was an older spirit, and there was another one, and there was like 4 or 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this one particular energy that I was talking to when I was like 14, right?
Uh-huh.
And it came up on the board. I hadn't told her anything about my previous experiences.
Uh-huh.
I know me personally, I don't move the damn Ouija. Like, there's no reason for me to do it. I wouldn't even be wasting my time playing it if I was going to move it, unless it's a subconscious movement in the hands.
Sure.
Which I'm not taking that off the table. But this energy popped back up. And he's like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And I'm like, "Hey, it's been a while, man." And he's like, I've always been here.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
"Oh, you son of a bitch." But the other spirits, besides this one, were creating this narrative on the board that the house had been burnt down and rebuilt, and it was a family that had died in the house.
Oh, okay.
So I went and asked the landlord, "Has this house ever burnt down?" He goes, "Oh yeah, it was rebuilt, like 20 years ago or something like that."
Wow.
So that was some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
But there was nothing extraordinarily profound about for you personally. It was just to have this message and conversation.
They were asking for help to leave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that's where it became necessary. Did you help them? Did you ever try to do a ritual to?
Yeah,
to
we
cross
did.
them?
My girlfriend at the time, she like flipped from being this Greek Orthodox chick to wanting to help all of these spirits, and I'm like, "Sweetie, we got to put this away, okay?" They just, I don't know. It was bizarre. It was
You
bizarre.
broke her. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I have a tendency to do that. They're like, people are like, "You send me to another world." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's what I do."
Oh, that's all right. No, that's really cool. I think that's incredibly profound, and it's a great story. And I believe wholeheartedly what you're saying. And I think that spirits need help. They're gonna try to find a way to reach out, and in fact, I think a lot of times a lot of hauntings are just spirits trying to ask to be acknowledged in some way. That it's not necessarily, negative that your soup bowl moved, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, bad things are coming. It could just be someone saying, "Hey, I'm here. Just want you to know I'm around." So that's my belief. I think a lot of people, they get freaked out, of course, when anything paranormal happens, because, anything that's outside of your paradigm, you have to process. And for some people, it challenges everything. It challenges their whole understanding of what reality is. And that's why I think paranormal is so incredibly profound, and not that Jesus, Super Bowl moved by itself. Isn't that amazing? Reality is phenomenal. It's to say that sometimes you talk a lot about touch points and symbolic ones within ourselves, but I think those could be touch points within the realm of the world that cause us to go, wait, this is bigger. Something just happened that I don't know how to process. Reality is more dynamic. It's more fluid than I ever thought. This is bigger. And so I think that when those things happen, they can have very profound effects on people, and to help them to see maybe a more truer, clearer nature of reality. You know what I mean?
You know, when you said the word touch points, I haven't used that term in a while. And you're right. A lot of these situations are huge monumental memories burned into my mind at these particular touch points. So, oh man, I think you just cracked the code. Damn. You heard it first right here on Beyond the Veil.
Thank you very
from
much.
Paranormal Portal.
Or Brent Thomas, whatever.
Straight from the Paranormal Portal, I should say. So, I had another experience, and we kept hearing this bang, 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 and it would happen 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, literally consistently. And it got to the point, I was with Cherie at the time. This was in Colorado. So it got to the point to where we started yelling at this thing. Like, it would start banging and we'd be like, shut up. And it would stop.
Oh, cool.
For a little bit. And then it would start again. And it sounded like somebody was taking the bathroom cabinet and slamming it. And, you know, this went on for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And so finally I just said, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to sit down and play the Ouija board. Let's try to talk to this thing. So Cherie and I start playing on it first, and Cherie's a little more apprehensive of the Ouija than I am. So she played with it a couple of times with me, and then after that, she's like, "No, you're on your own." And so this was going back to Lewis's question about have you ever used it by yourself. So I was using it by myself for the majority of this particular experience. But while I was playing with Cherie, this entity came up with this narrative that it was trapped there, and that there were two spirits together. And there was one that was hurting the other one, and that there was this kind of like sexual torture going on. I mean, this was like what we were kind of reading from the energy. Like one energy was sexually torturing the other one in real life, and so those energies kind of lingered in that particular area, and that the bodies. Listen to this: the bodies were buried underneath the cabinet. So I started trying to really get these messages, and the messages were coming in really, really, really jumbled. So I was writing down literally everything that was coming in and then trying to decode everything that was being said later. And then at the end, the spirit was like, "Nah, I'm just fucking with you." And I mean, it didn't come out and say it like that, but I started asking I started asking questions and it wasn't consistent. Then I started asking, "Are you lying to me?" Yes. Finally admitted, yes, I'm lying to you. I'm like, okay. Nice. But I almost tore up the freaking cabinets. Like, I almost took the cabinets out looking for the body.
Wow.
And this thing was just screwing around.
Wow. Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah. So that was the last time we played it, except for last time when you were here and we did the little
the mint one.
The little mint one that just went straight to goodbye, and like 90% of the time it just goes straight to goodbye. Like I've probably played with the Ouija I'm just throwing a number out there 200 times in my life. And I've only had like 4 or 5 profound experiences using it. So just to put, numbers in perspective.
Sure. Yeah. That's very cool though. But yeah, I think that the problem with the Ouija is that primarily like I was saying before, you become a blind channel for it, and it certainly is a portal. And as I've said many times before, you shouldn't open any portal that you don't know how to close. And of course, it's important to set your scenario. But the thing that you really don't have any control of is what you're talking to. You don't know if what you're talking to is a fantastic spirit or if it's a demonic spirit. You have no clue, and so therein lies the danger, at least for most people. And of course, you and I have talked many times about Ouija sessions and how I think it's we both agreed that it's important to set your stage, to cleanse your environments, to create a candlelit room or whatever with symbolic things that resonate with you that is going to push away negative spirits. and then just only encourage positive ones to come through. And then as you're closing the session, a simple way to close it is, if you had candles, you can symbolically say that as I blow out these candles, the portal closes. It is sealed with each candle. It is shattered, it is closed. And bind it with your will to close a session. I've never really talked about closing a Ouija session because I don't want to be responsible for that for people. But and again, it gets back to what you believe. Wherever your energy, it follows your intention. So if you believe that a certain ritual will do it, some people use the Lord's Prayer. If they're Christian, that resonates strongly with them, and they believe it's a very powerful thing, and it certainly would be. But I mean, again, you could
The
sing
Lord's Prayer. That's what it makes me do.
in retrospect, if you believed wholeheartedly, you could sing SpongeBob SquarePants, and it would close the session. If you believed in your hearts of hearts that it's going to clear the session, So there you have it.
Ah. Well, I'm going to do another break, and I'm thinking, let's I'm imagining sitting here yelling at this thing like this. Hold on. It would have been much smoother had I been able to get all this at my fingertips here.
Yeah.
So, all right.
My fellow travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires as we travel upon the level of time to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once obtained, no traveler returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we have passed beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump back into it. We have Brent Thomas, fresh from a bathroom break.
Fresh.
Stepping through the paranormal portal. He went through the paranormal portal first, into the bathroom, back through the paranormal portal, into the studio. So, let's pick it back up on the paranormal topic. So, Ouija boards and demonic possession and things that go bump in the night. I always tell Sheree things that go grump in the night. She gets pissed when I say that. I'm like, oh shit, it's things that go grump in the night. She's like, shut up, stop saying that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. So the Ouija is an interesting way to contact. But what would you say about tarot? Things like that, divination tools. Because as I was going through my experiences as a kid, we were doing everything from Ouija to tarot and everything. And I naturally boxed everything up in the same little box and put it away because I thought it was all connected to some kind of evil demonic energies. But can people be negatively influenced, would you say, through the use of divination tools like tarot? Have you heard of situations like that?
No, I know there's plenty of radicalized Christian people or with very strict views about it that would disagree with me. They would, of course, say that everything that isn't in encapsulated into the pages of the Bible would be the pathway to hell. But I would say that no, I've never heard of anybody getting affected in tarot or I think that these oracles are maybe amplifiers is what they are, and that the people that are reading them are truly, in essence, I think, using their own divination, but these oracles help to sharpen the vision or help dial in the readings. I know plenty of people that read tarot, and what they've said is that when they first started out, they really relied heavily on the cards, and they would, really pay attention to what the cards were saying and just stock read and learn that way. But as time went on, they'd end up using the cards just as a reference point, but then following their intuition for the message, that it evolved for them, and it just helped them to sharpen their own intuitive abilities. And so that's what I guess I believe is that, with any tool, like for instance, a hammer. Like I could hold a hammer and I could maybe nail a few boards together, but a carpenter could hold a hammer and build a house. So he has that ability, whereas I don't. And the same would be true for things like the tarot. I mean, there are people, we all have intrinsically, we all have a very strong ability, but some people are just born more turned on than other people as far as that ability is concerned. And so, for a true psychic to hold the tarot, they would, of course, get very profound meaning and messages to give to people. Whereas, a person that didn't really buy into it much could flip the cards and maybe get some, basic ideas or representations, but never get the depth of message. So I think they're just another tool.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Back to my mother, the experience with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
During this entire time, she got a tarot reading from this guy. And the tarot reading said that all this negative stuff was about to happen. Rather than using the knowledge to be able to change it, which is what you're supposed to do when you see negative stuff come up on the tarot. She believed that the tarot was actually manifesting all the negative stuff. Like the reading came first, and then based on that reading, it created the energy, I guess, that created the negative events in life.
Well, I would say that the expectation created the events. I mean,
good point.
That she believed those events were going to take place, and as such, she actualized it on some level. Not to say they weren't already happening or maybe possibly going to happen, but I think anything in future tense it doesn't have to be the way things go. I mean, we have the ability to change a vibration to, alter things coming. If we have that kind of forewarning or foreshadowing of what's coming, we can certainly make choices and put energy into the opposite and hopefully negate some of that. May still have some things happen, but certainly I believe that we are empowered to not have to accept something coming and just resign ourselves to the fact that that's just what it's going to be.
Well said. Katerina posted something that I want to go over real quick and get her experience. She said, "Hi, Chris and Brent. Wanted to share a couple of experiences with you. At 14, prior to internet, Google appeared on the board. Years later, Google appeared on the board, I guess 14 years prior to internet. Google appeared on the board. Years later, on a Salvia trip, a short black dressed goblin dude resembling the Joker from Batman appeared in my left hemisphere, grinning and coming closer. All I could do was repeat, 'No, you can't come in. You can't come in.'" That was left on the Facebook just now.
Oh, wow. I think she handled it right. No, you can't come in. I don't know what the Google 14 years prior to the internet. I'm not sure what that means. Is she saying that she saw the name Google prior to the internet, or 14 years prior? Or
it says, "I wanted to share experiences with you at 14 prior internet."
Oh,
it says prior internet in parentheses.
Okay.
Google appeared on the board. Oh, on the Ouija board. That's what she means. Okay. Yeah. Google appeared on the Ouija board years later on a Salvia trip.
Okay.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
Wow. And so,
but that kind of puts things into perspective for me, though. What if, my hypothesis is that it's all AI manifestations. What if she was actually connecting through the Ouija board with the artificial intelligence? It knew the word Google because Google is, I think, one of the manifestations and hardcore manifestations of the artificial intelligence. I wonder if she contacted the actual artificial intelligence itself.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty amazing. I couldn't begin to hypothesize, but it is pretty profound.
Interesting. So, and then the goblin people too.
Yeah, that's creepy. I think in any negative experience, whether it's in a nightmare, as much as you can control it, or in the waking state, if you feel like you're being attacked by something, and it can again start with just negative feelings, bad moods, whatever, and can certainly escalate. But if you believe that you are being targeted, it's really important for you to not be afraid. I think that a lot of these negative entities use things like moving objects and perhaps quick shadows running around to startle you and to cause you to be in a state of surrender. So fear is, and I said it, I think last time I was on here, and I've said it on my show many times, but fear is, a surrender. It's you're basically surrendering your power and saying that something has power over you. And so it's important to always remain in control of your emotions as much as possible. I'm not saying you got to be, the Terminator, but you've got to be able to say, no, I'm in control and this is not going to happen. And just keep reaffirming that. And, certainly get some outside help if that's necessary. And it may very well be, but you can certainly help yourself and help those helping you by remaining resolute in not allowing something to happen or not surrendering.
I completely agree with you. This is why I'm saying it's so important for people to tap into their raw consciousness and realize their own power. Because once you do, there's a sense of invisibility that comes over you. And did I say invisibility
You
or
did,
invincibility?
but you meant
Okay, invincibility. That's what I meant. I just called myself after that. But there's a sense of invincibility that comes over you that you understand you're greater than these energies and there's nothing these energies can do. It's only when you believe there's something these energies can do, like handing your belief over to the idea that they have some kind of greater power than you are, that's when you're susceptible. But after that, there's a point where you break this barrier completely. And even traversing through life too, like I've tapped into my raw consciousness element. I understand my mission. I have pulled out the message that I brought in with me. I understand who I am. And that has helped me overcome the fear of death completely. Like I know that I can traverse through this matrix, and unless I do something monumentally freaking stupid, like jump off a bridge or run out the middle of traffic or something, there's nothing that can touch me. When it's time for me to go, it's going to be time for me to go. Simple as that. So you navigate throughout the rest of your life focused without that fear, breaking those shackles, et cetera, et cetera. And, after living it for years and years and years and years, and you actually are when you feel it, it's a completely different experience than just actually knowing it or starting off on the path. Because when you start off on the path, you're kind of like, well, maybe I understand, maybe not, maybe these, you still let a little bit of fear seep into you. But after you really know it, when you've reached down in there, really know it, it completely changes life.
It really does. I mean, and you have to ask yourself, how do you want to live? Do you want to live being afraid and to be, powerless, or do you want to be empowered? And I think all of us want to be in control of our reality. And it's one of those things that conceptualizing it is one thing, putting it into active practice is another, because you have to manifest that in the most profound level in yourself first. Because walking around saying, well, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this is not going to add one iota to what you are. You need to become that. And that's why the tagline of yours, become your own shaman, is so powerful, because it empowers the individual to become, a very recognized and realized spiritual presence. God, if I don't quit that, you're going to make an internet thing about me.
What?
Yeah.
No, it's all good. I do want to give a shout out to Andrew Sly real quick. He actually put this shirt together.
Oh, wow.
Hashtag become your own shaman.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, people have been writing and they're like, hey, we want some of these stuff on t-shirts. And I don't know. You have the Paranormal Portal shirt on.
Yeah.
Show it off. So
Sorry.
it's freaking cool. Like, you were walking down the street and somebody grabbed you. You were telling me somebody was like, hey, what's that? And tell that story.
Well, I stopped at on the way over to Chris's house today. I stopped at a gas station and used the restroom, and I was just checking out. I grabbed a Coke from the fridge and was coming up, and the lady's like, "What, Paranormal Portal? What's that?" And I said, "Well, that's my internet radio show." And she said, "Oh," and she asked for information about it. So I shared with her how to, find the show and when we're on, and, ways that she can, check it out. And I said, "Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. Been doing it for a while." And it's just a blast. And she goes, wow, well, my son is a paranormal investigator out of Seattle. And she went into this long, there's a line of people and they're, in a hurry to get going. She just didn't care. She stopped and was having this conversation with me. And we talked about her son. And, we were talking, I'm like, hey, you know what? I would love to have him get a hold of me. I'd love to interview him for the show. Please, give him my information. And she's like, oh, I'd love to. Okay. And so, it was just by wearing this shirt, it just raised the question. And it's happened to me many times when I wore it at the grocery store. The checkout lady, what's Paranormal Portal? And, well, that's my show. And it's, maybe self-serving promotion, but it's amazing to wear something like this, because a lot of people think the paranormal is like, oh, it's cool on TV, but I wouldn't want to talk about it because people think I'm weird. Once you wear something like this, people come out of the woodwork. They're like, oh, Paranormal Portal, what's that? That's cool. And then they want to know more. And, when I was first starting doing this, Chris, I got to tell you, I was thinking, well, I'll talk about paranormal on the show, but, I've never really felt comfortable just having these discussions anywhere and everywhere. I'd always feel like I needed to talk in hushed tones and stuff. But since doing the show, I was just like, you know what, screw it. This is my reality. This is something I'm passionate about. And I start talking about it. And it's amazing when you start, talking to people just out of the blue. You just meet them and start asking them about ghosts or UFOs and stuff, how many stories people have. And it's like they're waiting for someone to share it with because they feel like they don't have any opportunity. So it's really incredible that once you start, wearing, something like this, how many people resonate towards it, and it just engages them and gives them an opportunity to talk. And I've know you said it so many times, you've got to be yourself. You just, screw it, tell other people go to hell, you don't live your life for them. And it was something that I took very much to heart. And I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be this me because it's okay. I don't have to hide. And it's been very liberating and very cool. So,
yeah, I was thinking about putting something together like that for Beyond the Veil. Where can people get the Paranormal Portal t-shirts?
Oh, you can go to paranormalportalradio.com, and there's a shop there. And I got some other designs that are going to be updated at some point. I keep saying that, in coffee mugs and some window clingies. And there's some, for whatever you're interested in. There's a couple of projects I'm developing personally that I'm going to add to that offering as well. But I don't want to get into those until I'm actually done building them, but I'll send you some pictures when I get home of what I got in mind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, some of the listeners, one of the listeners, T-Fetch, says, let's get some t-shirts going and stuff like that. Absolutely. I've been apprehensive to do so up to this point, just simply because I felt like it might have, like with our particular message, with 100% of the radio shows out there, it doesn't do this. But with our particular message, I feel like it might cheapen it a little bit by sticking it on a t-shirt or something like that. But then you raise a really good point. Like, these are conversation starters. Yeah. If somebody sees hashtag become your own shaman and asks, what is that?
Right.
And then you can talk to them about, whatever it is in your heart, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and look at what happened at lunch. Okay. We were having a conversation with you and I and Cherie, and the waitress came up and wanted to be a part of it.
Right.
And she resonated to it. And I'm sure that she'd worked there all those years. And what did she say? She's like, I'm so glad you guys came in. I really needed this.
Yeah,
it was exactly what she said. So I think people are just waiting for the chance to engage in that dialogue. And, one of the things that you guys have done an amazing job on Beyond the Veil is just creating language, because we've all had these ideas about what is this stuff, but you've created a language for it that I think helps people resonate to. And that's really cool. I mean,
thank you.
Make
I didn't intend to do so, but
make t-shirts that say quit being an NPC or something like that.
That's the one. Yeah. Somebody was like, make this a t-shirt. Somebody posted a little NPC, a little graphic. Uh-huh. And he's like, in the new age community right now, the big insult is you're an NPC. And I'm like, oh crap, did we do that? I was like, that really wasn't the intention behind all of this. I mean, we're just speaking our truth and speaking from our heart and speaking about reality, the way that we see it and the way that we understand it.
Right.
And like memes are like popping up and things like that, which I mean, I guess is good, but
I
don't think you should call somebody an NPC, even though I do that sometimes in a roundabout way and it pisses people off.
Well, I think it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. And I think you should. I know I'd buy one.
Call them NPCs?
No.
Oh.
You should make t-shirts, make things that people, coffee mugs and stuff. I think that stuff is great. And
I've always been the type, black shirt, black coffee mug. That's it. The way I see it, I shine so much light that if I don't wear black, then it's just blind people.
Johnny Cash up in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but it's definitely a powerful message that you guys have been putting out there, and it's really cool to see how strongly people are resonating with it. And like I said, you gave them a language. You gave a lot of people a language that they could communicate this with, because like everybody has their own ideas about reality, but they just don't know how to articulate that. So I think you guys have really done an amazing job.
Awesome, thank you. I want to put the ball in the listeners' hands here.
Mm-hmm.
You guys and gals out there, what would you like to see on a t-shirt? What message would help you if you were wearing a t-shirt like that to open up conversations and dialogues and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Write us at info@beyondtheveilmedia.com, and we can take some of these into consideration and see if we can put something together. So
Absolutely. It's definitely a great idea.
yeah, people ask sometimes about the necklace, and it starts a conversation based on the necklace. But I've always liked to be subtle. Subtlety is just kind of, for those who can see it, they can see it. For those that can't see it, they can't see it. And I think symbols work the best that way.
They do. You're right. But you've got a strong symbol as well. So
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. So we'll take it beyond the veil. So we've talked about Ouija boards, demonic possessions, haunted and possessed, not haunted and possessed, but spirit children too, the creepiest, black-eyed kids, et cetera, et cetera. I was actually listening to a 911 call last night. Last night I was going through all kinds of creepy stuff. And it was just like, well, Cherie was in bed, and I'm like, all right, I need some creepy stuff or something. I was watching all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, nothing is really sitting right. So I'm like, let's find some creepy stuff. So I came across this 911 call where this guy's calling in, and he's saying that there's a 6'5", 7-foot creature outside.
Yeah.
It's covered in hair.
I know the one.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's staring right at me. And she's like, so is it a man? And he's like, I think it's a man, but it's staring right at me. You need to get somebody over here right now.
Yeah. It's a very powerful story. In fact, the background of that was that the guy, and he was in Washington, as a matter of fact. It was in Washington State here. And what most people don't know is that 2 days prior to that, his dog was killed, and it was a German Shepherd, and it was lobbed over his fence, like an 80 to 100-pound German Shepherd was lobbed over his fence at about a 30-foot height and landed in his yard in front of him. And he had been dealing with this for quite a while. I think he knew what it was. He just didn't want to say on the call that he thought it was a Bigfoot, because he knew that nobody would be coming. But it's an incredibly powerful call, because you can hear it in his voice. I mean, and he didn't want to be known for it. The guy didn't want to be acknowledged for this after the fact or anything, but it of course was picked up by Bigfoot researchers and has been used as one of the examples of them being around.
I didn't know it was in Washington.
Yes.
That's what got me the most, was the way that he was so serious about this thing.
Yeah, and the sense of urgency.
Yeah, he wasn't pulling a prank.
Yeah.
You could tell in his voice.
Yeah.
And this was an older guy, probably 50, 60 years old by the way that he sounded. So it's not some kids just playing jokes.
No. In fact, it's a pretty quick one, and I'm sure you could find it pretty quick if you wanted to play it for the listeners. I don't know.
Let me see if I can find it here in a moment. Let me tell you about this other thing before I lose this.
Sure.
I was also watching a video about something that happened, I want to say in 2012, where these people were getting, all of a sudden, all these text messages, and this went to a whole bunch of people, all these text messages from 2003.
Really?
And they were a random string of numbers. They were completely blank, and that's it. And the phone company says, oh, well, we had a malfunction and it sent out a bunch of text messages, et cetera, et cetera. But people were saying that it was their cell phones from the past trying to get a hold of them in the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Wow.
One more story I heard was this guy was, I'm trying to remember the story in the right context. He had received a call from his daughter, but he wasn't married. I mean, he didn't have a kid yet. And he received this call, and she's like, "Daddy, Daddy," and trying to talk to him. And he's like, "I don't know who you are. You're not my kid," et cetera, et cetera. So he hangs up the phone. Years pass. He doesn't think anything of it. He has a daughter. He walks into the room. The daughter's on the phone, and she's talking and saying the exact same words that he heard on the phone.
Jeez.
And she's like, and he's like, "Who are you talking to?" And she's like, "I'm talking to you, Daddy."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That one just gave me chills just thinking about it.
That's wild. I mean, I do believe that time is fluid, and I think that essentially, I think there are, for lack of a better term, and I'm not using this to self promote, but I think there are portals, dimensional portals that just kind of appear and disappear, and perhaps create these windows of occurrence, and I think that's why. In terms of cryptids, I think that's why things like pterodactyls are still witnessed, but yet we don't find any bones or anything. And this is a kind of creature that wouldn't be intelligent enough to avoid us. I mean, it wouldn't care, if it's a prehistoric thing, but people swear, and the level of witnesses are absolutely, they're not just like some schmuck in a trailer park. It's like some very profound witnesses are coming forward saying, "I don't know what to make of this, but I just saw a 40-foot, bird fly over me." And, reports of pterodactyls and other things. And how could this be? Because, if they're out there, certainly somebody would have found a body of something like this by now, but they don't. And so I think that these are just like almost like time echoes that happen. And so perhaps those cell phone things are another artifact of that, but in our more modern technology.
I have that 911 Bigfoot call.
Oh, cool.
So maybe we can play this and see what the listeners think. So do y'all think this is genuine here? Oh, I'm going to get a freaking copyright strike for that.
Oh.
Come on, enough of that. All right.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. Looks like a man. I don't know what it was. Just that it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. I couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it. But whatever it was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Oh, and the guy is on foot.
I don't know what... It's a big... real big person. That's all I can say.
Okay, but it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Yeah. That reaction is just wow.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, ooh, that's...
Yeah, that's a pretty organic reaction.
And living out in the middle of nowhere. Imagine you're out in the middle of nowhere. We live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you walk outside and you see this huge thing, whether it's a hat man or a Bigfoot or whatever. What do you do in that situation?
Well, and that's why people are so critical of Bigfoot. It's, oh, God, there's cameras everywhere. I can't believe people don't have pictures. This doesn't make any sense. Well, you've got to understand that most Bigfoot encounters only last a couple of seconds long. And in that time, you would have to be able to pull out a piece of technology, pull up a phone, pull up a camera, aim it and shoot it. And my God, most of the time people are seeing something like that gentleman. I mean, it was so far out of his frame of reference as a person and as what he had witnessed prior to this. So he sees this huge creature. I mean, instinctively, people go into a fight or flight, kind of primordial response. It's not like, geez, there's a deer. Let me get a nice shot of that. It's like, oh my God, there's a 8-foot, ape-looking thing that's, running through this field. How do you? I mean, and so the pictures that are captured, of course, are very blurry, and I believe that there are some good pictures out there, but there's legends of there being pristine video and photos out there that are being held onto by some researchers because they don't want to put it out there, or they don't want to disclose where it's from or whatever, or they want to research it more in that area. But I mean, for the normal person, you're walking along on a trail and something 8 foot and hairy and way bigger than you, and it is looking at you. The last thing you think is, well, let me get a shot of that. It's like, I think people just go into the response like, my God, am I going to get eaten? Is this thing going to kill me? Is it going to just leave me alone? I think people go into a survival response right away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would as well. I mean, especially if this thing was like 7 feet tall, et cetera, because I mean, unless I was armed at the particular time, my instinct would be get the hell away from this thing, because there's no way you can take this thing down if you needed to.
Well, right. And you think about it. So if you see this big thing and it's relatively close to you, human beings in terms of natural prowess, we are pretty much, in the extraordinarily slow category. We are not fast runners in terms of animal speed. We are not incredibly strong in terms of animal strength. We are not incredibly agile. But here you have something, and there are witnesses that have that claim to have watched a Bigfoot run down a deer. And I know how fast deer run. And apparently they've been witnessed running them down and snapping their necks, and running down wild boars and slamming their heads into trees. That seems to be the way that they kill them quickly and then carry them off. And so, I mean, this is something that is so quick, so agile. And when people have seen them move in the wild, they're like, it's an unnatural speed. You see something so huge, and it runs at such a rate that your mind just can't comprehend it. So, clearly there's, we're not going to be able to do much of anything if they choose to come at us. And even if you have a firearm, you have to wonder, is it big enough? I mean, it takes a really big rifle to put down a full-grown grizzly. It takes a really big rifle and a well-aimed shot. And there are plenty of people that have been mauled by grizzlies that didn't shoot well enough.
Right.
And so, I mean, I know a lot of hunters claim to have seen Bigfoot or have made reports with the BFRO, but they said, I was holding on to my, 30-30 rifle and looking at it through a scope, and I thought, my God, this isn't a big enough gun. So these hunters were allegedly not confident enough in their gun to kill it. So, and, I do believe these things are out here, and I do believe that this is a species that has chosen our absence. It's chosen to occupy the planet alongside of us, but it's chosen our absence. And it is an incredibly adept at what it does. It lives in the wild. It survives in the wild. It's, this is the way that it lives. It's like you and your home. I mean, your home. You know how to get around in your home, and the wilderness is where these things live, and their senses are so much more attuned than ours. Their hearing is so much better. They have a sense of smell that, is believed to be at least as strong as a canine. So, I mean, they can hear and see you coming long before you're there, and they can move out of the way if they want. Now, I do think that the times that they're sighted is just an oops. I think for the most part, they just, were moving, and maybe they were avoiding something else, and suddenly there's someone else there, and it's like, oops, and they duck down again. They certainly don't stick around for photo ops, though.
I've got some creepy photos up on the on this other monitor here next to me. I want to go to this in just a second, but I do want to. Crow's here. Hey, Crow, how are you doing? We were just talking about you and how much we miss you. So thank you for joining us. The only one missing now is Alyssa. Where's Alyssa at? So much love to everybody out there. I was telling you about this paranormal investigator, and he claimed to have paranormal activity all around him 24 hours a day, et cetera, et cetera. And he was doing this interview, and he had his webcam down a little bit too far, and he was taking a pen like this and flipping it behind him, going, "Oh my God, what was that?" And had the webcam not been tilted down so much, you may not have noticed. Like you would just see like the object just flying back like that, but you could see him moving the pen like this, and whoa, whoa. It was the funniest thing. I can't find the interview though, and I don't remember the guy's name. But total fraud.
Yeah.
And the problem is, people like that come through and they discredit all of this, hoaxers, et cetera, et cetera. I need to stop saying et cetera, et cetera. Somebody called me out on it. Like, stop saying et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, I know, it's my new I'll stop. So we were talking about last show we were talking about this video of this drone where Bigfoot was caught. Mm-hmm. And you were the first one to call it out and say that's bullshit, that's fake. And Brent called it out right here on the show. And sure enough, 3 days later, the guy came out with the other half of the video where he's actually taking the Bigfoot mask off. So
yeah, well, thanks. You know, I it's really hard in this day and age, and of course with YouTube is you've got to take everything with a grain of salt, because any kind of serious investigator is going to know you need to inspect the equipment, you need to inspect the area, and you need to interview the witnesses to get any true idea of whether or not something could have or didn't happen. And even then you're still at maybe 50-50. But with YouTube, people are incredibly creative, and it's getting harder and harder to see hoaxes. And sometimes it's easier and easier because people are just getting more ridiculous. But you just gotta ask yourself just some basic questions like why. The big one for me with paranormal is that this it'll be a clip you'll see, and suddenly this person is just randomly panning a group of trees, and it's not a fantastic shot, it's not a scenic shot. So it's like, why is that person shining a camera at that uneventful scene? And it's like, they're staging it. Like, if it doesn't make sense why they're doing it, like if they're up on a beautiful overlook and it's like panning around and like, oh geez, there's something down there I can't explain, then that makes more sense. But taking a panoramic shot of a pile of garbage doesn't make sense. Why would you be filming that? And so a lot of times those are the big giveaways, is that there doesn't seem to be any criteria or rationale for them to be doing the shot in the first place. There's a mountain bike video out there that claims to show the man being chased by a grizzly bear on his mountain bike. And at first glance, it's like, wow, that looks really, really absolutely terrifying. Because, the guy's biking away, he's looking behind him, and here's this big grizzly barreling down the track. And at first I was like, wow, that, might be something. But when you start slowing it down frame by frame and you start to see that the bear is kind of sliding sideways as it's running straight, basically they didn't motion track it well. So you got to look for those kind of cues, those bad CGI, or interlays when they're trying to composite scenes together. And it's unfortunate that it has to be necessary, because there are a lot of people out there doing a lot of great work and giving their own blood, sweat, and tears and resources to try to bring, validation to these fields. But then there's, 50 times that number of idiots out there that want their 5 minutes, so.
That's true. And I think in order to be a well-rounded researcher, or researcher into anything, you've got to have a level of skepticism. And you've got to approach everything with skepticism and say, okay, how can I prove this to be false first before I consider it true?
Right.
And that's one thing that you do consistently. So,
well, thanks.
Yeah, you say there's no authorities and there's no experts, et cetera, but I would consider you an expert. So.
Well, I'm flattered by that. I honestly am, but I certainly don't have, all the answers, and I don't even have a lot of answers for a lot of this stuff. But I like it all, because for me, when I first created the show, it was just like, I love the paranormal because it allows a world full of mystery and discovery to still exist. Otherwise it's just a mundane reality of 9 to 5s and bill payments and, living your life through a mediocre job just to get to a weekend where you can kick back and relax. And I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in a world that still has mystery and still has unknowns and still has treasures, or, that need to be uncovered. And, you know what I mean? So, it's, and I'm not saying it's just wishful thinking. I truly believe that these phenomenon are very, very much valid. But, just to get my head into that place where, how do you live where you're, all your lawns are manicured and all your walls are keeping you safe, and I don't know.
No, that's true. Living in a bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not any way to live. Tori posted this. At 10 years old, I woke up at sunrise to see my dad's deceased dad, I guess grandfather, sitting on the bed looking at me. My nightlight was shining red in his face. I only knew him by old photos.
That's sweet.
Aw.
I think it is. I mean, it's just the idea that these loved ones, are still involved with us on a day-to-day basis. It's like, the whole idea of death is it's a horrible idea that we become just completely separated from these people that meant so much to us, and how much more beautiful is it that the love was stronger than that to keep, the bonds alive, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's beautiful when those deceased relatives stop in and let people know that they're there. I'm glad you had that experience. That's phenomenal.
Caitlin asks, have you ever seen a Bigfoot on ayahuasca? I never have. No.
I don't think they drink ayahuasca.
No.
See what I did there? No, I'm just kidding.
Nice. I gotta give you a high five for that one. I'm all about the dad joke, so when I hear a good dad joke, then yep, there it is. No, the closest that I've ever seen, I was driving down the street and I saw this thing that was kind of like hairy and hunched over and walking. It could have been a meth head though, and I'm not taking that off the table, but it had a very, very strange, like wolf-like appearance. But I didn't want to turn around because if it was a regular person, then I didn't want to, like, what's this strange car in the middle of two towns turning around and shining its headlights on me? And if it was something else than a person, I didn't want that thing to go, why is this strange car turning around? I better go check it out. So I just looked at Shereen. I was like, did you see that? She's like, yeah, it looked really weird. I was like, okay, let's just keep going. No need to investigate. But in this modern age, you do have a lot of fakes, as you said, especially with Photoshop. It's so easy to Photoshop something these days, and it's becoming that much just as easy to Photoshop videos, to edit videos. And it happens all the time. And, I wish people wouldn't do it because it clouds up anything that could potentially be real or valid.
Right.
But there are photos from the past and photos that have been taken with the old school kind of analog cameras. And I suspect, it's just a theory, but that the old film cameras were able to pick up a different type of light frequency than the digital cameras. And so that's why we don't see as many anomalies here. Mexican Americans. We can put Mexican Americans on a shirt. The chat is distracting. But so this particular photo was taken in, I want to say, like the 40s or 50s or something like that. And as you can clearly see, there's a body hanging down there from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And they call this the ghost, like the dead ghost body or whatever.
Right.
And one of the explanations for these type of photographic anomalies, when you have images of one person appearing in another image in a ghostly manner, is that the old style film sometimes gets the photos taken on top of each other, and so you get bleed over from one photo to another. That's one explanation. But I can't imagine any camera or any camera owner who would first of all film a dead body hanging from the ceiling, take a picture of it, and then take a picture of his family in the exact next photo.
Yeah.
Even if there's a space and time there, I just don't see it happening. So this particular photo here does not look like it could be one of those anomalies.
No.
What do you make of it?
Well, this is one that's been around for a long time, and I've seen it a number of times, and I know there's plenty of people that have tried to debunk it. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you that, the debunkers are sometimes incredibly ingenious, and they see things that are hard to, to see, or they have knowledge of the equipment that the layperson doesn't have. I think this one is legitimate, and the original story, I think, was just that it was the family sitting by the holiday table, and shouldn't have been anybody in that space. But I know I've read that several people have tried to debunk it and explain it in more terrestrial ways. Now, I will tell you that there seems to be another kind of movement in the paranormal field, and that is of these people that claim to know everything. And one of my pet peeves is when you get on any of these message boards for any paranormal evidence, you'll get a whole stream, and it's an internet phenomenon. It's not only in the paranormal, but oh, that's crap. Oh, what a bunch of crap. I can't get this time back. I can't unsee that. You just wasted my time. Why are you posting garbage like this? And it's like, I think that these chat forums and these bulletin boards and these places of, even YouTube streams and message boards are a great chance to exchange information. However, I don't, it really is my pet peeve when someone says, oh, that's crap. I can't believe you posted crap like that. Now I'll try to respond to them and say, okay, what are you seeing that identifies this as a fake for you? And get no response. Like, they won't be able to quantify why it's crap. So if you challenge a lot of these people that are like, well, this is a bunch of garbage. I can't believe this. It's obviously so fake. This is just a waste of time. And they're supposedly, even in Facebook groups, they're supposed to be in a group where they, are participating in a part of the discussion, but they post crap like that, thinking that somehow gives them a superiority because they can just, wave a finger at something and say fake. Well, if they can't quantify why is it fake, then they're idiots. If you can't quantify what makes it unreal, what are you seeing, what's going on? Now, I will say I have seen responses like that and then ask the person, what are you seeing? And for example, there was one picture that was out, and it was a trail cam picture, and it showed a weird creature, and it was just totally unidentifiable to me and to several people. And there was this one guy came on there and said, oh, this is garbage. There's nothing paranormal about that. And I said, well, please explain. What are you seeing? And the guy then said, well, that's the hindquarters of a deer, and you can see it's running this way. And it didn't look like the normal hindquarters of a deer. But once he explained it, what he was seeing and how that deer was moving, it was like, boom, I got it. You're right. You're absolutely right. But most people will not quantify it and will not offer any kind of dialogue. So that to me is an incredible irritation. Don't waste your time being negative if you can't at least explain why. Oh, that's another good picture. Yeah.
This is, from what I understand, they call it the Moon Man picture.
Yes.
And the backstory is that there was nobody else around, and except for her sister. But her sister and her were wearing the exact same thing. Nobody was wearing anything white like that looked like what appeared in the back. And this man appears in the background. Some speculate that it's a ghost. Others say that it's a time traveler, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. Yeah, and this one has been around forever too. And in fact, this film, the negatives were inspected by Kodak back in the day, and they found no evidence of any kind of tampering or forgery at all. It was as the camera saw it, it snapped the picture, but the father swears there was no one standing behind this child at the time of that photograph. So it is pretty compelling. I know that, again, this is another one that people have exhausted themselves trying to explain in more terrestrial means, but I haven't heard anything convincing yet. And I'm not trying to say there isn't a normal explanation for this, but I haven't heard it. And I certainly can't come up with one myself.
No, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Have you heard of, I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's a forest in Japan.
Oh, the suicide forest?
The suicide forest.
Yeah. In fact, there was a YouTube streamer that just got in all kinds of trouble lately because he went through there and he actually videoed a dead body in there and, of course, released it.
Oh, I heard about that. Is that what it was? Was it at the suicide forest?
Yeah, and maybe he was a Twitch streamer or something, but I guess his whole world kind of collapsed on him. Yeah, that was in the Hyubachi or something forest. I can't remember the name of it either. But yeah, that's a weird place. Very strange. Oh.
So the backstory to this place, this is a place in Japan. And the people would go there to commit suicide because in the Japanese culture, they're really big about honor. And if they feel that they've dishonored themselves or dishonored their family, they would rather go commit suicide. And this forest is completely filled up with dead bodies. There's actually a book about how to kill yourself in Japan, how to commit. I wish I could remember the name off the top of my head. We did a top 10 video and we named this place in that top 10 video of creepy places. But it's a book about how to do this. And I mean, they talk about everything from cutting the wrist, where to cut the wrist, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very, very, very creepy culture. But this is one of the big hotspots in Japan for obviously paranormal activity and non-paranormal activity too. I mean, just creepy shit that you come across, period.
Yeah, it is. And there, of course, there's plenty of claims of it being haunted. And I suppose with all of these tragic deaths, it would, stand to reason that it should be haunted with so much despair and sad energy around. I mean, it's horrible to think that that's the best they could come up with. But again, there is cultural, meanings behind it, and I don't understand. But yeah, allegedly that forest is incredibly haunted.
I hope we don't get into trouble with YouTube for showing that photo.
Oh, really? I never thought about that.
We may have to cut this part out. It's maybe exclusive for the live broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why you want to tune in live, because you get the
get all the good stuff,
get the hardcore stuff.
That's right,
for sure. So where would you say is the number one haunted place in the world? Any particular locations pop up?
For the most haunted place, there's and the bad part about me is that I'm terrible with names, but there's a forest in the Ukraine that I think it's in the Ukraine, and it's basically a forest that nobody will go in at night, and there's a circular area at the center of it that won't grow any trees or anything, and apparently there's always activity going on there, and people have gone missing and seeing orbs and hearing disembodied voices and even UFO reports coming out of there. So there's clearly some kind of vortex at this place, but I wish I could remember the name of it. I'm just so terrible with names. If I don't have notes in front of me, I'm just at a loss. But that's one that really jumps out for me as being a very haunted or at least supernaturally charged area.
On that note, let's take another quick break, but we'll take a little bit of a long one because I'll go ahead and play this particular video that we put together, and maybe we can talk about a couple of the places that are in this video on the other side.
Absolutely.
So, Planet Earth is a...
Fellow traveler, the cries of the mystery speak again. Bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. The great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only your consciousness knows the true path. You, the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump into this final segment here of this special broadcast with the one and only Brent Thomas of the Paranormal Portal. And, watching that video, I came up with a couple of ideas like haunted pets. I don't think we've ever talked about this before. Possessed pets. And this place, Overtune Bridge, where the pets go to commit suicide. So we can talk about this. But first, I want to talk about your YouTube channel, youtube.com/paranormal portal.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
And you do the live broadcasts there where it's late night paranormal.
Yeah, that's right. You can watch Don and I doing our thing on youtube.com/paranormal portal. And, it's up and coming.
God, what was that? Something just flew behind me.
It must be paranormal.
I swear to God, that's what this guy was doing on this interview. I've got to find this. It was the biggest bullshit in the world, but I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
I would love to see that video. Actually, it would just be so great to see that and see what an idiot he is. But that's the hard part, because, like I said, a lot of people are really investing a lot of time, energy, and effort and resources into serious research. And then you got a schmuck like that coming along that just, notice me now. I have, and that's one of the red flags for me personally in looking at videos on YouTube and people's purported proof is that, there's a term that's used in homicides, and it's called an orgy of evidence. Like, if there's so much evidence that just points to one possible conclusion, you actually have to start questioning the evidence. And a lot of these researchers are putting out, these videos that are just chock full of things happening. And it's like, my God, really, if there's that much going on there, then you should have universities coming in, setting up, labs of, equipment in your home to start cataloging this. And, otherwise it wouldn't just be you and your iPhone sitting there, and having all this amazing stuff happening. So that's the other side of it, is if there's too much stuff going on, it's an automatic red flag for me. Not that it's not possible, but I just don't buy it usually.
Right. I didn't mean to interrupt though.
No,
you were telling us about the live stream.
Oh yeah. I mean, we just do the live streams, and basically we've actually started simulcasting our TFR live shows on YouTube as well. So if you want to check it out and watch us do our thing, and it's a lot of fun. We don't try to have a real dark and serious overtone to it, because a lot of times the paranormal is just pretty plenty dark enough, and we don't need to add theatrics to that. So we just try to keep it light and fun, and have some great discussions, and look into some phenomenon, and hopefully come up with some explanations, or at least some thoughts on it. So yeah, check it out. We'd love to see you there.
Awesome. So, a lot of love coming out of the chat room. And,
wonderful.
Yes. So, Overtune Bridge. Overtune Bridge, the creepy place where dogs seem to go and commit suicide. Just something calls them. Maybe there's a ghost that's like, here, boy, come on. And they're like, oh, okay. And they try to get the invisible ball or something.
Yeah, fetch.
Like I have no idea what's going on. But you've heard of this place. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, and there's been a lot of people throwing 1,000 theories at what could be going on. But essentially, people are walking their dogs, and if, dogs are getting off their leash and just suddenly jumping to their death. And there's been dogs that have actually survived and then done it again. So they leaped off one time going over this bridge, and then they got away another time and actually killed themselves. So I don't know what's going on there. Is it I have to wonder, is it some kind of strange vortex, or are the dogs seeing something? I really believe that pets and animals see with a lot more spiritual vision than we do. Like they're able to see that energetic field where we can't with our eyes. We're just seeing the normal spectrum of light, but I think they must see something more, because a pet will become aware of a paranormal presence long before you will, pets and then children. So it's like your cat or dog will start having issues, and then, your child will suddenly have an invisible friend, and then the furniture's moving. So it's like some reason pets are really tuned into that paranormal energies, and are they seeing something? Are they seeing a different scene than what exists? Are they seeing a field full of bunny rabbits that they got to go chase? I don't know. It's very strange. Is it an illusion that's being projected to them, or is it more terrestrial? Are they just having some kind of artifact of light that's screwing up their vision, and they think they can jump over and play with something? I don't know. Very, very strange. But it's certainly not an isolated phenomenon. It's been going on for a long time, and a lot of people have researched it, but I haven't heard any real plausible explanations about terrestrial reasons that this could be happening.
Huh. So do you think that animals can be possessed? Can they be carriers of spirits?
I think that yes and no. I think that they can have an energy attachment. There's been plenty of cases of demonic hauntings and demonic or allegedly demonic situations where there's a demonic presence, and they seem to target the pets. And I imagine that could be because it's, certainly easier to drain them of their life force and energy than it is to, get the people weakened and drained. So a lot of times people will notice that their animals will be absolutely tormented and will get sickly. And, it could be one animal, then another animal, then another animal. But I don't know if they can be possessed, so to speak. But I think that there are, plenty of accounts of people seeing demonic entities appearing as animals. I think that it's possible for some of these entities to take a different form and appear as animals. At least that doesn't mean that they're terrestrially there as an animal, but they appear to be there and they appear to be an animal. I mean, so I don't know though. I can't say that I've ever heard of a demon possessing that. Now I have heard of angels allegedly coming in the form of animals. And there are a lot of people that believe wholeheartedly in that. And there are some really interesting accounts out there. I couldn't recall one enough to give you an example, but I know that somebody had lost like a daughter, and suddenly this dog shows up that's homeless, and they adopt it, and then somehow I think they found a name tag on it that its name was the same as the daughter's, and it's just suddenly bonded with the family. I mean, that's a very badly paraphrased account of what I've read before, but there are several of those kind of stories where these animals seemingly appeared out of nowhere in a time of need, and really brought a lot of comfort and love to people that needed them. So I don't know, but as far as possessed animals, I don't know. I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Any thoughts on East City Ranch?
I'm sorry?
East City Ranch.
East City Ranch?
East City, yeah. That's a question coming out of the chat room. It's a place, actually, I think it's in Oregon or Western Washington, around that vicinity, if I remember correctly. But yeah, they're saying that there's a lot of paranormal activity. There was another place that Jesse Ventura investigated.
The Skinwalker Ranch?
Skinwalker Ranch, that's it.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That seems to be one of those places that I'm sure must be a vortex or a portal of some kind. And there's lots of extraterrestrial accounts of people witnessing what appears to be alien craft. There are accounts of skinwalkers being there, and people that seeming to transform into animals. There are haunting stories coming out of there, creature stories coming out of there. What the hell's going on there? I have no idea, but it seems to be just one of those places that seems to, attract a lot of different phenomena. Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch and it's one of those places you really can't get close enough to because it's so fenced off, and allegedly any attempts to cross the fence will be met with armed guards, making sure that you're off if you're not, and coming out in a very threatening manner, almost as if it was like Area 51. I mean, it seems to be really well guarded, is what I'm understanding of that. So very strange, though.
Yeah, I've heard some creepy stories when they went down there supposedly with Jesse Ventura, and all of this could just be staged just for dramatics. But their radio started getting funky. They started getting weird signals on there. It seemed to be like a loop of repeating, like go away, stay away, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think Jesse's almost paranormal himself. So
yes, he is elusive these days for sure.
Yeah, he's
no doubt about that. That guy that I was talking about that was throwing the pens.
Yeah,
I think. Anyways, so this guy here, Stan Romanek.
Yeah, there's a great documentary about him on Netflix.
What are your thoughts on him?
I know that at the tail end, there's been a lot of effort to discredit him, but I have to, I think that there's kind of an illness in this country where we're trying people based upon public opinion. And I don't think that the information is all in regarding what's going on with him. I think his accounts and his footage is absolutely breathtaking, and I think there's something going on there for sure. There seems to be a very concerted effort to discredit him, to the point that it goes to the old playbook of how to make somebody suddenly an undesirable character. And I don't know, but on the end of the documentary, they actually include a letter that Cherie had written.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that was Stan Romanek.
Yeah.
Oh crap, that's right. They did the documentary. They quoted Cherie.
Yeah.
at the end of that documentary.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize we were tied into that. Oh,
Yes.
shit. All right. So I hate to show you this now. I probably should have told you about it first, but that's the guy I was talking about, Stan Romanek.
Oh, really?
The pencil thrower.
Really? Oh,
Let's go to the video.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's gotten some amazing videos.
Brings more to the plate in your story that not all experiences have.
I don't know what the hell that was.
Oh no! Wow. Oh, that's
in your
good.
story that in your story that in your story that
I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know what the hell that was.
Wow. Looks like a thumb. Oh no.
But yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. One of the experiences that I had.
Did you get touched then?
No, something. I don't know if something dropped or what. But one of the experiences that I had.
Oh no.
This subject is a very touchy subject for people, and the only way we'll know for sure is if I get it DNA tested, and that costs a lot of money, which I don't have.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's hard enough trying to get by, let alone to have that just dropped. I knew it.
I have no idea where the hell that come from. I have no idea where the hell that come from. I have no idea where the hell that come from.
No.
What was that came over your head and dropped on the grandstand? They're playing funny buggers.
I don't know where it went.
Well, that's too bad.
I saw it come over your head and then go to your left, which is my right, and I don't know, I can't see where it would have gone from there, but that's how it appeared on camera. I get the same crap here all the time, mate, so you all right?
Wow.
That's kind of creepy. I had no idea where it went or what it was.
Yeah, it went to your left. Oh, well, it went to your left. I don't know how it appeared over there.
It's a thumb drive.
Yeah, the USB memory stick.
It's a thumb drive. Well, you better check the files on there. I'm sure there's some paranormal shit on there.
Where it came from because I thought it was in my drawer.
Oh no.
Well,
Yeah.
to me it appeared to drop on that side, your left, and not that side where it dropped. So that's trippy stuff. Well, g'day, fellas, and thanks for popping in.
It looked like it came from up above me. I don't know. That's bizarre.
Yeah, I'll write down the time code on that. It's around 36 minutes. You got touched, and 46 minutes that just happened. I get the same stuff here. We've had people see orbs and on my side of the thing, so it doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Did you see the video? I posted it on Facebook. I watched. And see, this is part of being an experience. It's called high strangeness.
High strangeness. Yeah, there's high strangeness going on.
Yeah.
That's disheartening.
I didn't know it was Stan Romanek.
That's
Somebody
him.
pointed it out in the chat. Yeah, so
it's
disappointing to see stuff like this, but
it really is. And watching the documentary, I thought, wow, his footage is really impressive. And he allegedly had it reviewed by some experts, but I guess, that's too bad.
if you pull some shit like that,
yeah,
in my opinion, automatic disqualification.
I agree.
of
I'll never look
any
at it
credibility.
the same way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's really disheartening to see. But there again lies the risk of rendering an opinion on something. It's like, well, it appears to be credible. Now, again, I certainly wasn't there and didn't interview him or look at his equipment and have no idea, but I can only judge by what I can see. And the captures that he had were at least very compelling. But yeah, that's too bad. Wow. my opinion has just changed.
That's how it goes.
It is. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
But
alien thumb drives appearing out of nowhere. Oh my God, this Anubis just appeared out of nowhere. It must be a sign from the Egyptian gods that I am the chosen one.
That's too bad. That's truly, I guess it should be par for the course, though, with as many idiots as there are out there. I guess he could be one too. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Believe half of what you see, or what is it? Believe half of what you hear and none of what you see? Is that the old saying?
Somebody mentioned the child porn charges
Yes,
as well.
that's-
Okay, now this case is all starting to come together for me now for who this person actually is, because I get bits and pieces of information, and then somebody was like, "Hey, Cherie was cited in a documentary on Netflix," and we're like, "Okay, cool," and I went and like watched the end of the documentary just for that one particular part, and that was that, but. Yeah, it's a shame.
It is, and that's that's the liability of paranormal research. Is there's for every one person, there's 15 idiots out there trying to make a name.
Yeah,
sell books, to do the tour on their 5 minutes for whatever it's worth, but at the expense of the credibility of everyone involved. So.
Yeah, I'm being there you go in the chat. I'm being Roddy Piper from They Live, and you put the sunglasses on so you could see. There you go, perfect.
You're here to chew bubblegum.
Yeah, yep. The thing with the child porn charges against that Stan Romanek guy, he had like hard drives full of stuff.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, that's what I seem to remember from the story.
Oh.
And he was trying to say he was set up and all kinds of stuff like that, but you don't have hard drives full of stuff like that.
No.
I knew this one kid, and I don't know what his name is off the top of my head, but I think that he was set up.
Oh,
he had autism.
Oh.
And he was like an activist,
Mhm.
and he had opened up an email and got something on his computer.
Oh, okay.
And they tried to send it to Stuart Rhodes as well, and to Luke Rudowski.
Wow.
And they were smart enough not to open it,
Mhm.
and they had it like supposedly forensic and analyzed and stuff like that, and found this. But this one kid who was also tied into all these people also, I guess, received the same email. And then they wound up going there and raiding his house and getting his computer. They found one single image.
Wow.
And it wasn't even on his computer. It was buried like deep in a place where it wasn't even accessible.
Wow.
So something like that, you can turn around and say, okay, yeah, that was
Sure.
there's a probability that something like that was set up.
Sure.
But then when you have somebody with hard drives full of stuff,
yeah, that's hard to defend.
you can't really say that. Yeah. So
that's too bad.
Yeah.
Wow. I do like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but now that I've heard more about it, it's hard to defend that. How do you?
Right.
I think that there is a precedence of innocent until proven guilty, and there needs to be, because you don't want innocent people doing time and stuff, but at the same time, if someone is guilty, I guess they're guilty.
Yeah, and the poor kid was autistic on top of that.
Wow.
So he was very, autistic minded.
Sure.
And they got him in there and threatened him and all kinds of stuff, and he wound up signing for probation or something like that. And everybody stopped talking to him because of that.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, it was like telling to see all of his friends just kind of turn like that. Like we weren't in his circle, but we were just observing this from the outside, and I'm like, wow, this is a sad situation.
It really is. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but it is a standard playbook that, nothing will make somebody a social pariah more than child porn. I mean, instantly, we all go to that protective place. It's like, what in the hell are you thinking? That is just, it's an abomination to our normal rational minds. So yeah,
Right.
It's certainly a sad thing.
It is what it is, though. It's into the UFO community too. I don't really see why they would want to set somebody up for. Did you hear that?
Your door just opened. Your door just opened, brother.
It did, didn't it?
Yep, it did.
Okay, now we're not.
True story, ladies and gentlemen. It happened here.
We have the window open though.
Oh, well.
So it could just be a draft.
There you go.
Let's just call it a draft. Because I don't want anybody to say, hey, they're faking paranormal stuff right after they're playing fake paranormal stuff.
That's
So,
right. We're trying to give you the best evidence we can, ladies
Yeah,
and
but
gentlemen.
I did hear that, and I was like, that's kind of
Yeah.
creepy.
And it did.
Brent didn't close the door well enough.
Yeah, it must be my fault. That's it.
Anyways, we need to end it on a high note. I can't believe we took the last part of the broadcast way down to this negative frequency. Like, oh man, we shouldn't have done that. No. That's what happens when I get tired, and I'm recovering from a flu too. So the flu's going up and down and up and down, and like tonight, like my head just started to get that flu symptoms again. But there was no way that I was going to miss this rare opportunity. Even though Brent only lives 45 minutes away, he can come over anytime he wants. He still chooses to come over once every like 3 or 4 months, if that. Sometimes a year will pass by before I see Brent. I don't know why. I think he's busy with his baby. How's the baby doing?
He's doing wonderful. He's amazing. He's fully potty trained now, so it's a little party at my house. Woo! Yes, indeed.
So Brent was telling me a story. The baby went to go hang out with the grandparents for a couple of weeks. And the grandparents decided he didn't need to be potty trained while he was there. So the baby got used to, again, unpotty training and just going wherever. So the baby's come back and he's a little tyrant now.
He was. We've changed his mind about that, but now we finally got him convinced potty training is the way to go. So the way to future. And so he's doing it. He's doing great, and I couldn't be happier because it's certainly the bane of any parent's existence is dealing with poop. There's just no easy way to say it.
They take over your life, don't they?
They really do. But they're, it's something that in my life, in the course of everything that I've done, the one thing that I try to take, that I think really matters that I do, is to try to be the best dad that I can possibly be, because that'll directly affect, what happens in the world after me. I mean, that's my legacy, right? So, I mean, he's an amazing child. I have 3 beautiful children. I'm a very fortunate man, and I have a loving wife. And so life is good, but, there is the potty training thing. It can definitely try your nerves and your patience, but when they come around, it's a huge party.
You were telling me about a paranormal story that involved your son.
Oh, yeah.
And the TV.
Yeah, this was a while back now. It was actually last fall, maybe late summer. I don't remember which, but he had been through this period, and he's only 2 years old. He was he started having these accounts just before his second birthday. And so he would just be in the house playing near us, but suddenly he would just get freaked out and monster and run and, want to be held. It's like, what's going on? What's he seeing? And of course, we've experienced things at the house, throughout the time we've lived there. So there is some kind of presence that was hanging out anyway. But I came home and it was a later night that I came home one night. It was about 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and they were already in bed. So I, went in, and my wife was telling me he's seeing a monster and he's getting really freaked out. And she goes, and my wife's a real sweetheart, but she's like, I can't protect him from this, so I need you to cleanse the house. And so I was like, well, it can happen tomorrow. It's okay. I'll do it first thing in the morning or something. I was really tired, and I decided I had to go to the bathroom, and of course my little boy decided he was going to follow me. So the house is all dark except, for our master bedroom is right by the living room, which is, then you go through the living room right next to the kitchen to go to the bathroom. And, you kind of do this, you around, and he followed me in the bathroom, and we're sitting there, and got the door shut, and suddenly I hear my wife hollering. I'm like, what's going on? Now everything in the house was off, and except for the light in the bedroom and the light in the bathroom. And finally she shows up at the door and goes, who's messing with the remote? And I'm like, nobody, we're in here. What's going on? And she said, well, the TV just turned on, went through the menus. And then she said, the first time she yelled, she said, who's messing with the remote? And the TV froze, and it froze on a picture, a close-up of Charlie Sheen looking like this, in this really, like, I don't know, creepy looking eyes face. And it was really zoomed in close up, and it said in ghostly letters, infamous. and it was looking right at the bedroom where she was laying, and that's where it froze. And I was like, no, it couldn't have been us. You know, we were in here. And then I brought her out to the living room and showed her that the remote was way up high anyway, and he couldn't have got his hands on it anyway. And she's like, okay, you got to cleanse the house now. So at about 11 o'clock at night at that time, I'm walking through the house, saging and and cleansing the house. And after that, it was fine. That's never, those kind of things never happen again. But there always seems to be something jumping off at the house. I don't know. Maybe it's doing a show like Paranormal Portal is like a calling card or something. I don't know. Very bizarre though.
Very, very bizarre. So,
well, no, the creepy part is that the TV froze on a live channel. It just froze, and it was still frozen when I came out of the bathroom and looked at it. And,
infamous.
Yeah, infamous. It said infamous in ghostly letters, and it was from. I saw the actual commercial a while later, and it was for, you know, another one of the investigative channels, and they were talking, you know, now your door's shut, Chris, but. Welcome.
I'm not claiming any paranormal activity here, ladies and gentlemen. So just caveat out there.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was froze on a live station, and my TV never does that. It's a, you know, relatively new big screen TV, and it hasn't happened since. So it was very, very profound event, but it did happen.
On that note, think about that. Your TV freezes on Infamous, and your kid on top of this. The kids. This is what I'm saying. Kids are like the creepiest because they you know, they can see things that we can't see. And so
now I know on your show that Cherie was saying something.
And it's not that the kids are creepy, but
No.
what the reactions
Yeah,
to things kind of creep you out. They tend to elevate the creepiness level, in my opinion.
So we were at Walmart the next day, and we were going through the aisle, and I was talking to my wife. My wife likes to sit up in bed, and I was showing her these backrest pillows that you can get at Walmart, and you know, they weren't extraordinarily expensive and looked like it'd be comfortable. I'm like, here, honey, you should get one of these. And she's looking around, and little Elijah points at the black one and says, "Monster, monster," and it was this black fluffy pillow, but to him that was the monster. So I knew what he was seeing at that point was some kind of black mass.
Monster.
Yep.
Yep. So, yeah. I think tonight I'm going to be watching Angry Video Game Nerd, maybe. To try to balance the energies out. Because, yeah. This was a lot of fun, Brent. I really appreciate you
Thank you so
spending your
much for
time
having
with
me
us.
here, brother. I love coming over and doing this. And I'll come over more often. I just don't want to be a pest. You know, I'm just trying to, like, you know.
You can't come over at 9 o'clock in the morning, though.
I almost did.
He showed up
today.
at noon, and I was like, still a little too early, but it's okay. And he was like, I was going to come over at 9. I'm like, no, too early.
See, I followed my intuition, and that turned out to be correct. It
Yes.
turned out to be correct. So I came over then, and that was just about as early as you want, right?
I think that's the limit. Yeah. Lunchtime is good. We go out, we have a nice lunch, come back, and, you know, then the day begins.
Absolutely.
But no, I get up at like 5 in the morning.
I
But
know.
between 5 and noon is when I get all my work done, like the primary work. That's when Cherie's still sleeping.
Oh, sure.
So I can do, you know, what I need to do uninterrupted.
Mm.
And then she wakes up and I tend to the requests of Her Majesty.
You cater to Her Highness.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So
You're a good man. You're a keeper.
you have to. I mean, you know, if Mama's not happy, nobody's happy. I that's what I live by. Like the other day, she was making cookies,
Mm-hmm.
and she says I turned off the oven. I don't remember turning off the oven, but I just said I'm sorry for turning off the oven. Like that's it. I did. I think that's the good default position for a happy marriage. Like, I'm sorry I turned off the oven. She's like, well, you know, I was making cookies. And I thought to myself, she must be thinking like I have this like diabolical plan in my mind.
Her cookies will never get done.
I'm going to ruin her cookies, thereby ruining her entire day. Then world domination will be mine. It is at my fingertips, this one last effort. And it all comes crumbling down.
That was like the one last Jenga block.
Yeah, but I think all wives think like that.
Oh, sure.
Naturally. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah.
It's the genetic defect of us being male.
Yeah, but guys, I'm telling you, it really helps. Default position. It's my fault. Sorry about it. And
yes.
That's it.
And yes, dear.
Yes, dear. Yeah.
Yes, dear. And it was my fault.
Right.
You'll be fine.
Exactly. So on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. We'll be back tomorrow night, and the little twin will be with us, and we will be speaking with Robert W. Sullivan, 32nd degree Freemason, and he gave us actually a long list of stuff that we're going to go over. This time we're doing Robert's show. Every other time we've had him on, we've done our show, where we lead things and take things in particular directions. And after he sent me the bullet points, I realized we had missed so much vital information when it comes to cinema symbolism and Freemasonry and so on and so forth, that I think this is just going to build a much more dynamic show. And he sent me this, which is the Fraternal Review, The Force and the Light. And it's got a final word by Albert Pike. And the final word says, men all around, in order for world domination, you must turn the oven off. It's right there by the infamous Albert Pike. So that's what they discuss in the Freemason lodges, is how to piss the wives off. That's it. That's why women aren't allowed, because that's all that goes on there.
Do not run the vacuum.
Yeah. So we'll get into that and much, much more right here on Beyond the Veil. Love you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everybody who contributed in the chat room. And if you didn't like or comment or subscribe, shame on you. The black-eyed children will be appearing this evening.
You might be an NPC.
Yeah, you might be an NPC. Love you. And we will see you next time.